new collaboration, movable death boxes, and some changes to Miramar. All this and more as we dive into the Update 37.2 patch report. First up, the desert's about to heat up again with a visit from the iconic artist G-Dragon. You'll be able to find an emote stage on the starting island. Special G-Dragon map decor such as a decked-out gas station and fan room, and other themed visuals such as planes, blue chip towers, and care packages. And be sure to head over to the G-Dragon truck stop to immerse yourself in the recreated Power music video set. Next up, we're improving the way you interact with some of the objects around the map. You'll now be able to reposition death boxes to get them to a safer location before looting, or use them to lure unsuspecting loot goblins to their demise. Doors can now be opened inward as well as outward, and all those gas tanks you've been wanting to shoot for years will now explode when you do so, leaving behind a large cloud of smoke to cover your movements. More details on where you can see these changes in the patch notes. And speaking of Miramar, the Minas Generalis area has gotten an overhaul this update as well. We've streamlined building layouts for more efficient looting, added more item spawn locations, simplified the terrain and structures, and balanced out the engagements between high and low ground in the area. There's also a new Survivor Pass, the return of Survivors Left Behind and Hungers Left Behind, some updates to Team Deathmatch and Intense Battle Royale, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 37.2 is here, so drop into Miramar, stack those death boxes high, and kick back with some G-Dragon hits. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
About these events like the PUBG Hot Drop 2025 that we just had is simply just meeting all of these amazing people.
PUBG for putting on this amazing event. It's been so much fun. It's been so great getting to chat to the devs, getting to see everyone playing games and having so much fun. Thanks to all the team that's put it together.
It's great to be here. I can only say to other PUBG players, come here next year.
Have you ever imagined creating your own PUBG game mode? Well, now with UGC Alpha, that imagination becomes real. All Plus users can create UGC Alpha sessions. Getting started is simple. Just go to Custom Match, UGC Alpha tab, then create your own session or join a friend's. By default, only the host can edit the mode, but editing permission can be granted to participants through settings. With UGC Alpha, you can place props, build custom maps, and set your own game rules. Anyone can join and play, up to 100 players per session. Want a simple but challenging parkour mode? Or maybe a chaotic deathmatch? You make the rules. You can save your creations anytime, or load them up later to keep building, even if it's not your mode. If you find a fun session while playing, Just hit Save As and keep a copy for yourself. Need a head start? Try one of the official sample modes provided in-game. In the next video, we'll dive into object placement, movement controls, and how to bring your map to life.
Chicken. New boss. Captain Crispy.
Still alive. Just eviscerate the team just like that. They have taken the game.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Exactly 6 months ago, the PUBG Players Tour began in earnest with Chunks and I on the mic bringing you the first ever PUBG Players Cup. And now 6 months later, almost to the day, we're kicking off the final PUBG Players Cup of the year to find out who the final teams will be joining us in the final Masters of the Year's LCQs. Chunks, it's been an absolute pleasure being on the mic with you all year long. You ready to run it back one more time?
Absolutely, I'm always ready for the Players Tour. It has been a super exciting tour throughout the year, throughout the past 6 months. It has been super fun to watch. We've seen ups, downs, we've seen the dominant teams that we kind of expected to do well. We've seen teams come almost out of nowhere when you look at a squad like Mirror and the insane performances they've been able to put up throughout the Players Tour. So it's been a really fun one. I'm excited to see what this week holds. Obviously, we have 8 games. We'll get into the format later on, but ultimately, it's the last opportunity to qualify for that final Masters event for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, that's it. The final Masters of the Year will see the top 8 teams from North and South America taking on the top 8 teams from EMEA to find out who the best PUBG Players Tour team in all of the Western world is. Of course, this is the format, which is essentially sad times now because it's the final one. Where, as I said, it is 8 maps over the course of 2 days. Here is your schedule. Miramar to kick things off, finishing off on Erangel. But as you said, Chunks, this has been a year of learning. This has been a year of discovering, which teams are going to improve. And funny enough, despite some people's reservations and questions, the teams that have performed the best over the course of the year in the PUBG's Players Tour have also been the teams that have been performing the best in the most recent PUBG Americas series, who will be looking to go ahead and qualify through the PGS and, as we said, the final Masters of the Year as well.
But of course, we've got to focus on the teams that have qualified for this Players' Cup. Going to be a lot of familiar faces, some of whom have already qualified through to that final Masters and will already have their spot. They're going to be playing for a chunk of the prize pool. But ultimately, 4 of these teams that you see on the screen right now will be qualifying. The rest of them, well, they're not going to stand another chance. And usually at this point, we'd be telling everyone, go get signed up. But this is it. There is no more Players' Scrims going on. This is the final Players' Cup, and they're competing for an opportunity to play against an absolutely stacked roster in the West Americas. Last chance, only 4 spots available here.
And here are the teams that will be taking part, and you'll recognize a lot of these faces as well. We'll also be playing in PAS this weekend, but the standout teams of the year, obviously like Furia, Falcons, Liquid, and Alcudsia will always be in that conversation. Rock have stepped on leaps and bounds over the course of the last 12 months. For those of you who don't recognize Mission Ready International Alliance, that is the formerly known as Luminosity Gaming roster. So there you go, in case you were wondering who might be on that. And then last week we saw the emergence of Fate, which was a North American qualified team. A couple of names that you would know from inside of scrims and watching maybe some PASs in the past. They came in after some time off and qualified through. And it's just those final 4 spots up for grabs. And as I look through the teams and players taking part, there is one player, Chunks, that I'm so excited to see because I have not seen him in a scrim or in a competitive lobby in a long time. I don't know if you're aware of him, but just personally, it's a player called Giancarlo. He's just one of those South American players that I've enjoyed watching. Doesn't get flyers a lot, but was always a fun watch. Might not be qualifying for, regional finals, never mind international events, but I just love seeing a callback to a face that I recognize from back when I started casting inside of the Americas.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the Players Tour, isn't it? Is it only takes 1 or 2 really strong performances, or sometimes just one player to be able to get you up to the top end of things. Now, obviously, in previous Players Cups, it would have been the top 8 that have qualified, so it does make qualification a little bit more manageable. Top 4, it's going to be difficult if you've only got one player who's that standout, but ultimately, in an 8-game format, if you have 1 or 2 really good games, you should be up in the run at the top end of things. Then it's just about keeping things consistent, and on the topic of keeping things consistent, Gibson, we're starting off over here on Miramar with a very southern playing path. We haven't had the Island Circle, and I'm saying it so I know we're not going to get it, but please, just give me one before the tour's over.
Yeah, and we see the plane with the tattooed wings on the top. You have the exact same tattoo across your knuckles, don't you, Chunks, if I'm not wrong?
It's actually across my shoulder blades, yeah.
Yeah, because you're obviously a big David Beckham fan, and that's why you got that tattoo. But we'll get stuck into the action. Very southern flight path, almost crosses the word Los Leones off the face of the map. That'll give you an idea of where we're going. But, Chunks, as we get into the start of the last ever PUBG Players Cup this year, is there any memories that you want to share? Any particular moments over the course of the last 6 months that kind of stood to you all year round?
Mortars, BRDMs, and those early tour Tago maps, because those Tago maps were hectic. We saw so many hot drops on compounds that you should just not be hot dropping for. So I think they're kind of my highlights. What about you?
I think just watching the maturity of Mira. Seeing them come from, I'm not going to say unknown because we knew the players' names, but seeing them come from what you would class as outsiders or underdogs to becoming powerhouses over the course of the year. I think some incredible comebacks as well. Like, remember way back to either the second set of player cups, we saw Team KZito who were a million miles off going into the second day, and they made a huge run to qualify. All in all, it's just been the development and the emergence of players and teams getting used to the standard, and obviously working with you, Chunks. It's been a highlight.
Of course, Gibson. You had to suck up to me on the last week. He's not this nice when we're not on the mic. Anyway,
I'm nicer.
Look, I want to point out something here quickly. Power Grid. We've actually seen 55 kind of get challenged on and off of there throughout the tour so far. It looks like they tried to stretch over to San Martin. Obviously, haven't been able to. Maybe assuming that Power Grid would be free. They've actually been pressed off of this. They've been forced over to the east instead. And 4HP, they're having some trouble. But you know what? Mr. Fui over in chat has just reminded me of the highlight of my year, and I can't forget it now. The ferry.
Yes. I think you're right. That I'd laughed for about 3 days after that. So for anyone who doesn't remember, there are clips out there on Reddit. Basically, we saw the ferry get killed. The ferry has gotten kills in the PUBG Players Tour as a team tried to cross from Millie Island onto the main island on Erangel. So, yeah, you know what? For comical value, that's what I'm going to go for.
I think that has to be the highlight now. Like, we've seen some really funny moments and some really entertaining times, but I think the ferry getting the kill over on Erangel was amazing, especially when you take into account the circle we were having that game as well, where everyone went down to Millie and then, like, one team stayed up at Milta, and of course it ended up hard shifted over to Milta. But for the time being, let's focus in on what's happening right now. A couple of teams, 3 to be exact, over in Los Leones on the very southern side of the circle. And then because of that southern playing path, you've got about 4 or 5 teams even further south that are going to have to try and make a rotation, playing for what is ultimately a very open area down on the south of this circle.
Chunks, you forgot to do something important.
Fill me in.
You got to tell the viewers at home if they want to watch the map or see what's going on. Exclamation mark map in chat. That'll give you access to the map stream where you can see all the rotates of all these incredible teams and just get an idea. If Chunks and I ever reference something that you don't see on the screen, we're looking at the map stream. So, you know, while a gunfight might be happening or while we're watching a rotate, we might be saying, oh, well, by the way, just up by El Pozo, Mira, they're about to rotate going into the north side of the circle. You know, the things that we tend to do. But, yeah, Chunks, we just saw it a second ago. Giancarlo. I said I was excited to see him play. He is playing for the, I guess, is it the 4 Happy Men? I think the team name that they're going for under the action today. I'm just really happy to see him back in the server.
I mean, it's going to be a difficult one. It looks like they're actually going to be using an EP at the moment, but look at this. Aberrate from OMG is looking over in this direction already. He sees it in the sky. He knows there's players up there, and he's got a teammate further up inside the building. I do wonder whether he can maybe get a line of sight onto this, land some shots.
It's tough, right? Like, if he could hit these shots, he'll be playing at the next PNC if he managed to get a knock onto a player from this sort of a range. But I think 4 HP, they're going to be fine. Tatsumi, the Kira, Nazira, you know, this roster, we saw a couple of these players playing last week. I think we had Tatsumi in the action, but they're taking the skies. Chunks, if you're looking at the map stream, have you seen how these 2 emergency pickups have literally made a crosshair on a scope in the middle of the map?
I mean, I think the 4 Happy Men should be able to get in a little bit earlier, so it's not like we're going to see them both hot dropping onto the same position at the same time. But can you imagine if they go for like potentially dangerous right now, and both teams are like, this is a really good position, and end up running into each other? So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Razav, they're coming over from the west. Don't forget 55 Esports. They barely managed to get a player up to San Martin. Most of their players have just spot looted east of Power Grids. They're not going to be super kitted and probably not wanting to take this fight.
No, I wouldn't either. You know, just get into the circles. Phase 1, there's tons of ground. With the flight path we had, if a player goes, I want to drop in Hacienda, San Martin, El Azahar, you'd be 99 to 100% sure those sections of the map are going to be clear, because the flight path was so far to the south. If you pick up to the north, you'll get your pick of the bunch of that northern side of the circle. Team Razav, they're not a team that have to worry about rotating Chunks. They've got a great spot just to the east of Power Grid, over by the graveyard that looks, you know, on that main road from Picado up to Hacienda del Patron. So they're not too unhappy with it. They have, like, if anything, I'm looking at potentially dangerous and going, they don't like to be this close into the center of the circle just yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've got a really good position right now for actually gathering info. so they should be in a good position to rotate going forward. Now, granted, PD, they're definitely a team that do like to play a little bit aggressive, kind of play out from the edge, which is not something we see all that much of anymore in PUBG. It feels like everyone does go for that more central meta as we kind of swing back and forth between playing edge, going for kills, and playing central, playing for the late game. I feel like PD, they're not going to be too unhappy with this. They're nicely split. I think their biggest concern right now is going to be that team that is dropping in the middle of them over at Minas, but they've got the read on it as Gabri starts to fire some shots. He's not able to connect just yet.
Yeah, Juventus dropping in there as we watch Team Mula moving on here as well. Mula Systematica, they, if I'm not wrong, didn't quite get inside the placement spots last week to qualify, so they'll be hoping to get over the line tonight. Remember, 3 teams have already qualified through, so if those 3 teams end up in the top 4, the positions will go to the next available teams on the list. But Team Rezav, they will move into the graveyard as we kind of expected them to. PD have sent Tony out on a scouting mission on that southern side of Minas, a little bit further away. But I'm looking at, in particular, the likes of AKA. They're rotating in by Los Leones now. They have so much space to move into. They don't want to go too far, though, Chunks, because if you go too far and the zone shifts back your way, you might just regret the move, as we watch 55, who might regret moving past Tung Tung Sahura if any of these shots land.
So they managed to get over to the building, but it's Team Mirror. There it is. I was going to mention earlier when I saw them rotating in, wow, Mirror haven't got any Phase 1 kills on this Miramar map, which is something that we see, I'd say, in 90% of the Miramar games that we play here in the Players Tour. Mirror get at least 1 or 2 early game kills as Karak tries to land one of his own onto Valiate of Dots. They decide to turn around. Valiate, by the way, early adopter of the 9mm weapons. BSS, MP5, he will rock them till the end of the day. And you know what? It looks like the rest of Dots, they are following suit right now. I did not see a single AR.
Well, what do you expect, Dots? It'll be 9mm. That's the rule of the roost for the Dots. Yep. You bring in your VSS, you bring in your MP5, or I think we saw Valiant with a double VSS at one point last week, and if he couldn't get a double VSS, he was rocking the VSS and what I like to call sometimes the discount VSS, which is the Vector with a 4X and an extended mag. But just keep an eye on them. Look, it's great. We've seen a lot of people tweeting lately about the VSS. I think, was it Wacky Jackie was saying, in his opinion, the VSS has been an awesome gun for years. Content creators, am I right? No, I'm joking. I've always had a soft spot for the VSS, but it's just always been a case of there's been no incredibly strong reason to use it up until recently, where it does feel a little bit better.
Or unless you're in an arcade mode against me and you really want to tilt me. As Fake's in, he's going to be tilting Nazero with that one. Run overkill to finish off the job. And that circle for a team like Mirror that have taken a wide northern rotation, they're not going to be too happy with that one. It is pulled hard down to the south. I know it's not likely that teams are going to commit to it, but we would be remiss to ignore the fact that Los Leones is still slightly in the circle.
Yeah, just about. AKA rotating back into Los Leones now, but I expect they'll go onto the hills on the southern side of it, or at least the southeastern side on that main road that leads towards Impala. Dots, well, it's not all 9mm. It looks like they've got a Panzer at the ready here too for Zyko, but they got to get on the move. Barry coming under really heavy fire from Mula Systematica as they will rock up on this compound. Oh my god, with a nade at the ready, DTMF will drive by the first nade. Saitama switches over to the AR, manages to hit a couple of shots, but he's going to go down at the hands of Cruxy as this big crash will happen in the center of the circle.
Why did his teammate not peek there? What was Aberic doing? He was holding the wall as if someone was going to wrap round. Was that a miscommunication? I don't know, but that was the start of the downfall here for OMG. Should be able to retaliate with an nade to take down Cruxy, but now there's only going to be 2 players left up from OMG. Carpe Diem takes down Togod as they will be able to finish off the job, but that was not as clean as it should have been. I can understand losing 1, but you've got to be ready for the trades when those crashes come through. As PD, they're not going to be able to trade that one out because Tony just got hit by an aid with 1 in hand.
Yeah, he's down, he's out, potentially dangerous. Might be able to bring him back if they're able to win this fight, but it's just Glock in a 1v3. Blood, he has got himself a Panzer at the ready. He'll peek him out, but where were you firing, Blood? That was the complete wrong way. Or was that just a animation bug? Because it did look like he fired there, Chunks, but nothing came out.
I think that was a grenade that landed in front of him, but right now, Juventus needs to make something happen as Nightavon makes something happen. DZ is going to be eliminated, but Zello's there to trade it. Gabri will fall. Nade will come out from each standing player. AK Spray connects with one, but it's not enough to finish off the job. As Blood's taking down Glock. I didn't realize it's PD taking a fight on two fronts right now. Nightavon's the final player left up, but not for long as Axmeyer from Team Casito finishes off the job, and Juventus going to be happy with that one. Early game mayhem as AKA have decided to backfill onto OMG's compound.
Yeah, potentially dangerous. Got caught out. They were rotating to help their teammates in that battle for the compound and got caught out as they went on by. Carpe Diem will catch out Nanu, and a second one swings across twice with a shotgun, and it is 2 shots, 2 knocks. Will look to get the flush to Wanda, AKA one of the stronger teams inside this lobby, but they are getting the sword put to them here by the members of OMG. Fatty third-partying dots on that position just a little bit to the southwest of here. Have a nice angle inside the compound, and that's a great nade from Abrick right on top of Falcon. And I believe that just leaves Danshin as the last player left for AKA.
Seems to be that way. As OMG, I don't like the way that they're pushing in this compound right now. Sure, they've been able to finish off the job, but they are just not playing for trades. It's so hard to be able to keep a player back up if you're not immediately there to retaliate with fire. I think OMG, they need to step that up, because now there's going to be even more teams looking for that compound based off of this circle. It's a high priority position. You've got 2 full squads over to your east. You need to focus more on playing for trades. You can't just be going down one by one if you're not able to pick up a teammate, because there's no res beacons nearby.
I'm looking at that position I've circled on the circle as well, up on the hill north of Los Leones, that you'd expect at least one team to try and make their home in this point, with it being completely vacant. You've got a huge chunk of this circle over towards the east, which is essentially unplayable, right? From that X Games dip that we see a 2-2 split being held in. And then you've obviously got the farm compound in the middle of the field. Everything else in that section is unplayable. You do not go into that open. You've got a dip that you can play a little bit to the north, but it is essentially a very condensed circle now for Phase 3 inside the zone. So, like I said, I'm surprised not to see more teams make a play for the south, because those hills by Cantera are so heavy traffic right now. Like, this is just 55 and Tung Tung Sahur fighting here, but you've also got to consider the fact that Mula Systematica are just a little bit to the south, and Juventus are just a little bit to the north of this as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of teams playing for Cantera. That's okay, Pippa. I see what you're doing here. This is not a play that I have tried before, but you know what? Now that I've seen it, I'm going to give this one a go. It looks like he's trying to get through the gap in the roof to play up the top, using that zip line really effectively. I mean, he's fallen once. Oh, nearly went again. He's made it. Can he do the final jump?
Even if he can't get up there, think of the scouting you can do, right? You sit in that pipe, you crouch, you're going to be able to see up over that ridgeline. Like, you can see so much information if Pipa can't quite make that jump, but I think he will.
I think he needs to put his gun away. I think if he puts his gun away, he grabs that ledge.
I think we need to look away. I
think we stay on this until he either dies from fall damage or he makes it up.
You see, I think he's having a problem performing with all these people watching. You've had that issue before. There we go.
There we go.
Well, that's what I
got saved there for a second.
I looked away. That's what happened. I looked away, and Pipa got up there. Mir, though, they're not shying away from the fight. They're fighting against Team Casito. First aid will get the knock on to Axmeyer. Bran will drop down to 75 HP here as well. Chunk says Team Mira look to make an assault up onto this position.
So much util being thrown out here, and they don't really have any info on where these Team Casito players are. They've already backed off into the compound, so a bit of wasted util here from Mira, but it may just be to keep Team Casito at bay right now. They've got a nice little dip, sure. They need to be careful of up this hill, but they're doing a good job of it. They've got down a little bit of emergency cover, unless they decide to make a crash, which, I mean, mean, given the current circle position, maybe they do try and go for something a bit more central. It's just a question of what? Danshin, the final player from AKA, just trying to clear out the compound with OMG. And I believe they only have one player committed onto this. I'm not sure where that final player went to rotate out, but right now it's a 1v1 in the compound, and Danshin definitely aware someone's still about.
Do you see what happened there with Mira as well? They went to bug out for the circle shift. The circle shifted to this position, so they've gone back to where they were a moment ago. Kerak, he's looking to send Team Rezav back to the lobby as their next rotate, as he begins throwing nades and utility up on top of the hill. Rezav, of course, will have the benefit of peeking over that ridge line without putting themselves in any danger. But for 55, the longer this fight goes on, or if you don't clean it up clear enough, at some point, Oranzero would need to go help the rest of his team. And if he does that, he gives up a really good position for 55 to move into in the Cantera mines.
Yeah, I think 55 just going to focus on grouping up now as OMG. They are back in the compound together, but Danshin has already made a move to where, though, is going to be the next question, because ultimately in this circle, cover is limited out on the east here, especially with teams like Casito and Dotch just amazing lines of sight down onto the field, but we'll hop on board with Jumentas as Blood tries to land a spray, but ends up getting caught out from Mixtal from behind. Jumentas now throwing down the smoke, trying to get the player back up. Wow, what a shot from Danshin.
That was brilliant from Danshin. He gets the knock, he'll follow it up with the flush. The smoke's going to be a little too late, but Danshin, the last player for AKA, ensuring his team goes down with at least 1 point. Haven will catch out Angel as he tried to make that rotate off the roof, but you can't do that with a player like Haven around. Bran peeking through the windows, but surely Haven knows he's in this position, and Chunks with 2 nades make that one because he's about to send this one right in that window. He goes the wrong way, though. He goes the wrong way. 42 damage, and the other nade bounces off the windowsill.
Throw the BZ. You know the player's in here. Now they know what window they're going to be aiming for, but ultimately, the Molotov only just connected. That should be the end of Brand for the time being. It's the frag grenade that's able to finish him off. Really smart play from Team Mirror right now. They heard that Team Casito were preoccupied shooting those players in the open hillsides. They knew they'd be exposed, and they knew that they weren't looking this way. The double barrel used to great effect. Finishes off Robert, and that's the end of Team Casito down in 14th position. Mirror with a real power position now, able to look all the way out into those open fields. They just need to be careful not to get backfalled from that previous position.
Yeah, and now Tung Tung Sahur still in that fight. That's a great shot coming through, but his Tatsun falls.
He popped a tire with it.
Yeah, but he needs to do more than that, Chunks. He needs to find a knock onto the Kira, who's going to go inside the blue. Tapping away at that VSS. Yes, you can go full auto, but he's electing to go for accuracy over quantity. And Abra, it looks like he does get that knock. Shindo will confirm that one out. His Fexin from Mira is holding back OMG.
Really nicely done from Fakes in there, as it looks like OMG, they managed to get the res beacon, calling their teammates back in, almost for a little bit of a distraction to a certain extent. Mirror down to 3 players, but not showing any signs of stopping as LFP jumps up in the air. It's actually Shando with the third party to take down Satum. 2 players left behind the ridge from OMG. It's Carpe Diem and Takamura, but he's been able to grab some loot. There's a BZ nade already on the body, though.
Carpe Diem needs to live up to his name here, and Carpe Diem, this lobby, you've got LFP not too far ahead of him. They're going to dip back into that little gully for now as Team Mira extend out just a little bit, but the circle shifted south away from both of these sides. A little bit further away is Giancarlo, the player that I sang the praises of a little while ago as the last player standing for 4 Happy Men's. Oh no, Dots. There you go, Giancarlo, come on. No, you gotta hit those. He was dead to rights, but all he has to do is drop this nade right on top of Daigod. And he will find a knock, but Daigod realized he was a open target and dips into cover. Maybe this one, Chunks, finds more value.
You gotta hope so, and it does, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to finish off the job unless 4 HP are able to take down that final player. Giancarlo being cast-cursed by Gibson as Team Mirror. They were rotating to actually take a fight over on towards OMG, but it looks like they backed off of this, headed all the way south, just using the vehicles for cover now. Mirror are gonna get a bit more proactive, throwing down the emergency cover ahead of them.
Yeah, now on the other side, the mutant, someone electing to use another one of those discount DMRs as Mula Systematica's Zig is going to fall despite the level 3 gear helping him out. He got caught out as 55 will fall also. Tung Tung Sahur and Mula Systematica picking up points onto 55. 10 teams left alive. Now remember, this isn't the normal point scoring system. The top 6 get points off the back of this one. Chunk says Loki will get knocked as well, peeking from the side as Mira get that angle.
Nicely done there from Fana to get the knock, and I don't think that Tung Tung Sahul are going to be able to get the revive now. Reversing the vehicle in, trying to get into the zone, but ultimately Mirror are already posted up and just put it on a show for everybody, explaining once again why we call this Mirror Mar. Nade comes out from Breakin. That might be able to connect onto Fana, but just a little bit wide, and right now it's Team Razav who is starting to cause problems for teams in the center.
Yeah, Razav playing this game really well. Remember, we watched them take that spot a while ago. They've been moving in from that western side ever since. Next circle shift pops and it goes right up over onto that hill just on the edge of where Dots are playing right now. So they need to migrate in, as do Tung Tung Sahur. You've got Mixstall still alive for XL, way up in the north in the blue. But I think at this point, he's just trying to get a knock to get an extra point for his team. He knows he's going to fall, and he does, as Jolos are eliminated. And then there were 8.
Really nice shots coming out from Kevin's then onto the vehicle, but not able to convert. Silent Fury, it feels like they've missed their opportunity to strike now. They had a really good bit of high ground that now has been eliminated by the zone, but they have really good lines of sight down towards Team Razav. I get it, they didn't want to be completely exposed running into the circle, but maybe they could have got a couple of extra points out of it. Right now, they've only got 1 point on the board, and they have a difficult cross to make. They should just about be able to play the backside of this road, but ultimately, with teams like Dots posted up in a compound, you've got to think that they're going to start rotating in your direction sooner rather than later.
I think if Dots weren't there, they could play the road itself and, you know, go prone and stay in that position. But because Dots might be thinking something similar, you can't Pana. He'll step on up and he gets the knock on to DK. Yeah, I'm not going to say that name for the rest of the night, but Pana will get a knock, and you'll see Silent Fury get on the move in there. There's a knock onto Razav, and they are sending it right on into this ridgeline. Can they get even more damage done? Razav, will they get Baleta back on their feet? Yes, they will, but that was the opening that SF needed.
Hannah doing a really good job to find the damage, but he can't find the knocks. Nubsky, though, closes up the distance, takes down Commandex. Nade going close to the rock. Surely that should be enough to find it, but not to be. Mira still picking up kills on the other side of things as they start to get aggressive over on towards Rack 4. They've got an opening knock, make it a second. Only 1 player left up. It's going to be Breakin, and he's got the vehicles for cover. Opens up with some shots, but all it's succeeded in is giving away his position as Fakesing goes for the heal. He will be taken out by Nubsky up the hill, so only 2 players left to make this push onto Team Mirror. And right now, they're a little bit worse for wear.
10 points on the board, though, already. So no matter what happens from this point on, it's a good game for Mira here on Miramar. Razav still extending down towards the North Valley. It will whip out that VSS once more. He has got multiple targets he can go for, and I think what happens all the time in situations like that is you can get distracted with so many targets you fail to pick one in particular. That's much better, though. Shane Doe will wipe out Silent Fury. Dots will go for the smoke off, but that is the cue. Look, Razav Chunks sending their way straight onto this one. They know that Dots are weak, and they want to push on up.
Rack 4 will go down. That's Mirror confirming themselves in the top 5. Shane Doe tries to make it into the top 4 for his team. The nade will come through from Nubsky. Gives away a little bit of info on the position of that player. No more. As Valiate with the MP5 takes down 1, follows it up with the second. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Valiate, the 9mm Warlord, making it count. Badilil finds a little bit of team damage, but it doesn't matter because Dots have just found themselves their 10th kill of the game. We'll be going for the revive as Mirror look to make it 14. Looks like they spotted out a little pixel of Dan Shin and will find the headshot. And now we are into the top 4. 1 full squad, 1 3-man, and then 2 solos.
I'm going to call him the 9mm Maniac from this point on. That's what I'm going to list him as. And if we see him, if you see him, I implore you to do the same. Razav, they've got 1 player left alive, as does Tung Tung Sahur, with just Necro left alive. And Dots with 10 kills of their own. They did not come to take part tonight.
Wow.
They have come to take over. But what sort of a spray is that from Kevsno, as he is just going to obliterate Batty from range with that Groza? That's nasty.
Look, when you know that there's 3 or 4 players inside a smoke, why not go for the spray? 1 in 10 times you're going to hit something like that. They find themselves the knock. Sure, Dots have managed to get the revive, but it's slowed down their rotation considerably. Look at how Mirror have now been able to posture without any real threat from Dots. All the players from Dots, they've sent it into a single car, but oh no, they beached it. They've got stuck. Panzer will come out over towards Kevin's, but it's just a little bit far. Vexen takes down Zico. Valiate now sending it over to the rock. Badilul tries to crash, but Kevins finds the spray. Valiate will trade it with the VSS, finds the headshot, and now Necro making his position known. Valiate might have just made it into the top 2 by getting that headshot.
Yeah, 3v2v1. Valiant still in a great position on the edge of the circle and moving in. Shane Doe has spread himself out just a little bit further away, but Mira, with 3 alive and center circle control, have got a brilliant spot. But Shane, as you can see, is taking so much damage. He's mistimed it. Bye-bye, Shane. It was a pleasure. And that leaves it all down to Valiant now. And Chunks, where do you go if you were Valiant? There's not very much to play. He's got to crawl his way in, and you'd assume that in a few moments' time, he will give his position away to somebody from Mira.
The same has to be said, though, for Necro. Both players ever so slightly outside the zone. Valiate dropping everything right now. He's just going to deny to the zone, hoping that Necro makes some noise first, but not to be. Valiate will go down in 3rd position as Dots make it to the end game, and now they have a good read on where Necro's going to be. Spray comes out, LFP preps the nade, make it a double. That should be the end of things for Tung Tung Sahur. Still trying to spray, but as the flashbangs come through, LFP peeks up, and it's the vehicle that finishes off the job. It's Team Mirror with a 16 kill win to kick things off over here on Miramar.
As we have always said, you can't spell Miramar without Mira. The team that has been dominant all year round, who were dominant in PAS groups, are just going to dominate again for old time's sake here in the Players Cup. 26 points in game number 1, but from this point on, I don't know where the rest of the lobby is going to go, because when you've got teams like Dots and Mira picking up 26 kills in a 64-team lobby, it's dangerous for everybody else.
Let's not forget about the teams that have already qualified, though, Mirror being one of them. So sure, we're talking about the top 4 qualifying, but if teams like 55, like Team Mirror, make it through to the top 4, then it means there are extra qualification spots available for those teams that haven't already. So sure, teams like Mirror, they're playing for the prize pool right now, playing for the practice, getting ready for the Masters. But ultimately, if you're a team that's not already qualified, you actually almost want teams like Mirror to have these heavy kill performances, because that's just denying points from the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, they're doing a great job of just dominating. It's what they always do. And it's like you said, if they soak up most of the points, it makes that cutoff spot even lower to try and get yourself into the top 4. Remember, Team Mira does not matter if they can get in the top 4 or if they finish there, because they're already qualified. All they're playing for is just a little bit of that PUBG Players Cup money, which they have got the lion's share of so far this year. Well, here's your total point tally. 11 kills for Dots. You've always got 16 for Team Mirror, so that's actually 27 of the players in the lobby killed by those two. Tung Tung Sahuru, Team Razaf, OMG, and also known as, also picking up a bunch of little points. But Chunks, are you surprised to see 55 down at the bottom with 0 points after 1 map? Or is it just you going, yeah, it's the first map?
Honestly, what I would say is that comes down to their drop right there. They didn't get to loot properly. They were slow on rotation. I'm not too surprised it happened. Sometimes you just have games like that in PUBG. I would expect more out of 55. You think they're a team that will be able to salvage something. But in this scenario, they just weren't able to. We'll see in game number 2, which is coming up in just a couple of moments. Don't go anywhere.
A new collaboration, movable death boxes, and some changes to Miramar. All this and more as we dive into the update 37.2 patch report. First up, the desert's about to heat up again with a visit from the iconic artist G-Dragon. You'll be able to find an emote stage on the starting island. Special G-Dragon map decor such as a decked out gas station and fan room, and other themed visuals such as planes, blue chip towers, and care packages. And be sure to head over to the G-Dragon truck stop to immerse yourself in the recreated Power music video set. Next up, we're improving the way you interact with some of the objects around the map. You'll now be able to reposition death boxes to get them to a safer location before looting, or use them to lure unsuspecting loot goblins to their demise. Doors can now be opened inward as well as outward, and all those gas tanks you've been wanting to shoot for years will now explode when you do so, leaving behind a large cloud of smoke to cover your movements. More details on where you can see these changes in the patch notes. And speaking of Miramar, the Minas Generalis area has gotten an overhaul this update as well. We've streamlined building layouts for more efficient looting, added more item spawn locations, simplified the terrain and structures, and balanced out the engagements between high and low ground in the area. There's also a new Survivor Pass, the return of Survivors Left Behind and Hungers Left Behind, some updates to Team Deathmatch and Intense Battle Royale, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 37.2 is here, so drop into Miramar, stack those death boxes high, and kick back with some G-Dragon hits. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Still alive. Just eviscerate the team just like that. They have taken the game.
Yes, that ad break did not deceive you or did not confuse you at all. Those are actual things that are happening right now. We are in that current patch that you saw advertised. So the Miramar that we were on did have those changes on it, and we will have the different crate boxes, and you can move death boxes. Not only that, but we also do have PAS ongoing. The finals, of course, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when we will discover which teams will be representing the Americas in the upcoming PGSs, and even more importantly, which teams will be going to PGC. This event this weekend will have a massive say on that. But Chunks, back to the update we were just talking about. Couple of things changed that will impact these players today, like being able to open the door both directions, like being able to pick up death crates, and even more importantly, I guess the gas canisters that you can now shoot to give yourself some cover.
What do you mean, even more importantly? It's all about the BRDM not being able to block you in a shack anymore. Pixel got ahead of things. He retired before they got the opportunity to nerf him. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things change. I noticed something that I've not seen used too much before in terms of replacing tires with repair kits, but let's hop on board with the Razor fight right now, because it looks like they're getting pretty aggressive early on, right on the edge of the circle.
Yeah, we'll use this fight to avoid talking about the circle we've just been given, by the way.
I can't wait.
You know what? I'm going to talk about it while it's on our screen. See this line here? This is a clear deal. Oh, as soon as I start to talk about
right
it,
there.
it goes away. There is a clear distinction between both sides of that line, and whoever holds a position on that line holds the gateway to the circle for anybody who potentially makes their way into that zone. Does look like Debbie Tirar will look to get out of Hosan. Yes, it's inside the circle, but I think they're going to avoid the fight, or at least go further away and loot themselves up. But yeah, back to the circle, Chunks. It's I think the scientific term for that circle is nasty.
I think this is a 55 circle. Think about what happened last game. They weren't able to get to their drop, they weren't able to loot, and they weren't able to rotate. This game, they've landed over at fishing camp, which was relatively early on in the circle. They've already looted, they're already rotating, they are now center circle, and as I say that, they've actually ran straight into 4 HP, so they're going to be taking some shots, and 55 will try and regroup. Pippa actually finds himself an opening knock, but he's out of ammo, so I wonder if Psycho's going to go for the run over. Doesn't appear to be the case, but they've lost priority onto this compound now, which I think is what both of these teams were vying for.
I think they still go for it. You've got the knock, and the rest of the team's coming down the main road, so go for it. Nazira's going for the res inside, so you'll realize that they've either picked them up or got them rested away. But 55 have everybody in this position now. A very poor Panzer, or was that a nade that was thrown that wasn't quite good enough? But 4 happy men's are getting pushed now by 55, and look at them encircling them like a pack of sharks.
So they have been able to get the revive onto that originally downed player. Pippa just driving in circles. Crack, be careful, you're going to get shot from the side. Kira punishes him using that first person. Sometimes doesn't work out too well. Kira, he's heard another player, gets the nade ready. Will he be able to connect onto Pippa? Seemingly not just yet, but Pippa connecting nicely with the shots, followed up by the nade. In comes Psycho. They're going to be sweeping together now, watching the cross, but I don't think they spotted that player moving to the left of them.
Orange's heard something. He's heard something. That stun grenade being thrown as well is going to be even more of a signal of the intent of 4 happy men's. As Orange Zero will wrap his way around the other side. Footsteps reveal Giancarlo's position. He moves up the stairs, so you'll see Orange Zero feeding that information to the rest of the squad. As Giancarlo looks to get the upper ground. Now Zero will find a knock onto Pipa, as both of these teams are going to trade blow for blow inside of this compound. And I think 55... they're in a lot of trouble because 4 happy men's hold the high ground.
Yeah, this was really smart from 4 happy men's right now, and they've still got a player who really wasn't a factor in this fight before. It's a 3 versus 3, but the high ground counts for so much, and it just seems like 55, they were so focused on Giancarlo's position that they weren't covering for Nazira, who right now is playing over on the roof, trying to use that third person to get an angle, but it's going to be RNZ that takes out Tatsumi. Nazira trades it out. Giancarlo follows up with another. It's all onto RNZ. He's trying to thread the needle, find the angle, but there's a player right above him. It's Giancarlo that finishes off the job. 2 kills for him, 2 kills for Nazira, and more importantly, 3 players still standing with a respawn beacon inside their compound.
4 happy men's in a great spot. Yes, 55 are off the mark with their first point of the night, but it's the only extra point they'll be getting here on Tago. Rack 4, they have a compound of their own here, just south of the bridge that takes you in towards Go Dock. And a lot of teams gambling on this going towards the west. Whenever the map comes up, I'll talk a little bit more about the point I was making a little while ago. But Brandy's here from Juventus de Baia. He'll pick up his extra point and say thank you very much as Juventus get their first point of the map. And it looks like the rest of them are hunting down DTMF. They want to get extra points. They're not shy to go on the hunt.
I mean, this is a team that really impressed last week. We saw a lot of big things out of them. Unfortunately, they weren't able to qualify, but they're certainly going to give it another run right now. As Glock opens up over onto Zig from Mula Systematica. This team that I thought were going to crash over onto 4 HP once they realised they were players down, but instead opted to move back up to the north and taking a fight on another front in arguably a less advantageous position. Zig tries to throw the nade, isn't able to connect. Now it's just going to be a case of getting down the smokes, trying to get over to cover with your teammates supporting. So we've got a whole other fight kicking off down on the south of the circle.
Yeah, Baidon Ividabla is in this position here as he gets pushed by SF. SF, remember, finished in the top 4 in the last map, but they'll be looking to find a little bit more. Command X peeking on over with a Panzer, jumps on up and gets that knock as DTM now after getting dragged from pillar to post. Cruxy with a knock on the other side, but as he sprints across to the Beal, he's going to find himself under heavy pressure. Great shots from Vaker with the AUG with no sight, by the way. He's rocking the irons as he looks on over, and Humble and Goodwill Humble. You can brag a little bit about that spray as you find a knock the other way, but this is in essence, Chunks, a 1 versus 1 now with just one player on each team standing.
That Panzer can be such a beautiful tool, but sometimes you just get tunnel vision with it, and I think that's what we saw there. Players getting stranded out in the open, Humble and Good, trying to prove just how good this nade is going to be, as both players trying to connect, but not able to. Cruxy finds a pixel underneath the vent, just about connects, but it's on the flush, not to finish off the final player. Flashbang will come. This is usually the indication of a push. Decides to wrap round, and this is one of those fights that is so much more difficult in third person. Just trying to think about where your opponent can see you, not wanting to expose yourself, but also not wanting to let them get the res.
He sees him. He knows he's there, and he's going to get this res now, aka they're going to third party as they fire towards Cruxy, but Hungulum Good, he can now get aggressive. He's only on 54 HP, so he's got to be careful. You know that he's in that position. Swing a couple of players at it. Cruxy will get a knock on the Die Good, though. And now, all of a sudden, Humble and Good will finally end the fight, but he's down to 4 HP. He needs to get in cover, pop a first aid, and pray his teammate can crawl over. But I feel like Nanu will have his number, and AKA will push in to clean this one up.
AKA, here comes the send. They know that there are players down, but how much info have they really got? It looks like they're opting to wrap to the west instead. So maybe thinking there are more players up in this compound, it might not be worth taking right now. They're going to try and surround it, get as many angles as possible, and as those smokes dissipate, I am sure they'll be taking more shots towards it. Speaking of shots, here's Mira taking some shots over towards the docks. Zico had the Panzer, not able to use it. Fana gets the kill.
Yeah, point on the board for Mira again as they continue to dominate, as they always seem to do here on the PUBG Players Tour. Tung Tung Sahura, they're going to take to this guy, and well, one of them's going to go back to the lobby as Carpe Diem will find the knock onto Kaka. Now Faraz will begin moving around the other side. He takes a ton of damage as the flash grenade will remove lines of sight. Reposition, try to find another angle. Abric steps on in, but you know exactly where Faraz is, and Faraz, was nice knowing you. Abric will get that next knock, and Tung Tung Sahura looking very worse for wear here.
This is much better from OMG. They identified where the player was. They played together. As soon as one of them peaked, a second one did as well. Ready to play for those trades in case that Tung Tung Sahura player was able to get the knock. And I see you drawing, Gibson. Go ahead.
That's the line. This circle shift is going to be determined by... Oh my words. What the PUBG? So all this out of action. We've essentially got... This is playable terrain. This little section here. You've only got AKA in a spot. Looks like the res did occur inside that circle, but this is going to be a bloodbath in the zone. All the teams now that want to push in. I don't think Juventus know it, but they literally can gatekeep so many teams in the circle and get so many points if they play their cards right, because Mira will rotate through the coast. You'd expect Rezav and Dots to do the exact same, but Juventus Tabala, you need to hold this choke point and maximize the amount of points that you can get.
I was going to point out the fact in our previous phase that there were a load of res beacons still inside of play, but right now, what could teams even loot if they were able to bring a player back into things? I think we're kind of going back a few patches now to before we have those res beacons, as Falcon, he'll be going back to the lobby at this rate because he gets knocked completely in the open, and again, without any res beacons nearby, that'll be the end of his game. We'll see if AKA are able to regroup and get involved in this, but Coyote just completely caught out with the spray from Haven, has to reposition, and AKA, they are backing off of this, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, honestly, they just mirrored the rest of the lobby. It's easy for Mira. 2 kills now as they pick up even more points. What has been a very good night for them so far was it 16 kills in game number 1 and 2 so far in the second. Robert from Team KZito, he's coming under fire. It looks like Robert is back on Team KZito. Remember, not so long ago, this whole 4 were named after Game of Thrones characters. 2 of them have been axed or killed off with just 2 left to play. Or 2 of those original members still standing. But Coyote and Blood from Jumentos will both fall in the midst of the action. And this was the worry. Jumentos had to use this position to farm points, but instead, Chunks, looks like they've been farmed just a little bit.
Well, they've got a teammate parachuting in. That could count for something if there's plenty of loot in here, but right now, Jumentos, they need to try and defend. Satum, one more bullet, would have been able to finish off Glock. Would have caused real problems for PD right now as they are just scrambling for a position. They have been able to get a compound further south of OMG. Jumentos just holding on to this compound. They really don't have the numbers to be able to get proactive to defend. I think right now it's almost a case for them of waiting for a crash and trying to recuperate when that comes.
Well, AKA are likely the only team that are set up to go for the crash. They're going to go up on the hill line and have a scout, though that gunfire will let them know they're in that position. They have a couple of options here. One is to crash in on the other side of the circle. The other is to just get up onto the ridgeline, peek on over, and try farm and knock out. I don't like this bowl. Like, I'd like to hope this is just a pit stop while they get themselves matted up and get themselves ready to go, which is exactly what it is. But, like I said, this is a rough circle. 14 teams, 48 players have to find some way to call this zone a home. And I'm sorry, but the 14's not going to get into this safely.
I do want to point out, by the way, for anyone who hasn't got the map feed open with ! map, Mirror have just got themselves a load of crates. They have complete control of the southern coast now. As Brandy's able to open up onto Dan Shin, slightly prevent the crash, the rest of AKA have now moved into the compound. It's a 2v2 battle for the time being, and Brandy's brandishing a grenade. It's able to connect over onto Nanu. Only one player left up. Now is the time where Jumentos, they have to get aggressive, start pushing round, trying their best to cover. As soon as they look away, though, that final player, he peeks out the window. Molotovs will come through, but now the third party connected from Team Razav. Kevin's takes down Brandy, and Victor, he's out in the open. You can't let him get through the window, and they don't. Jumentos down in 14th, and Coyote really happy that he survived, but not going to be happy that the circle has cut his compound out.
I'm not happy, though, because the Tommy gun was deployed and we didn't get to see it. That is so rude of you, Team Razav, and the only way I'll ever forgive you is if you push into this compound and take down Coyote. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Kevzin, he's going to move on down. He knows there's somebody in there. The BZ will be the first step. The second step will be the breach. If you're AKA, you know your time is numbered. How many players can Coyote take down with him? The first nade will be tossed just behind him. Blue zone, not quite reaching. I think the best case scenario, a decent scenario would be to get one knock and a kill. Best case is he goes absolutely nuclear and wipes everybody out, but he's in a position where if he does get a knock here, Chunks, he should be able to get the flush pretty quickly.
The way that Razav are throwing their util right now, they have no idea where he is. Shane Doe is just up in a glider doing his thing, scouting out. I'm not sure whether the rest of Dots are even left in the lobby. I can't recall. I think they only lost Zico earlier. Beleda, he's going to push through. There's a player waiting in the corner, but Coyote not able to finish off the job, and it's AKA down in 13th position as now Team Mirror, they start to focus up towards that Dots player in the glider. The rest of them, by the way, are just moving in from the east. It looks like they're preparing to try and potentially crash Team Razav.
Yeah, keep an eye on what's going on. Razav might not be safe just yet as Dots scout out the compound. Valiant with the VSS gets the knock and flush on to Pana. And I think that might just be the go signal. They're hopping in a car. They're making their move. Elsewhere, we've just seen Carpe Diem wipe out Necro, leaving no last members left of Tung Tung Sahur, as Axmeyer will get that final kill. But Chunks, I think Dots are making the exact same crash that we saw get made by AKA. They'll wrap around the edge, then they'll push into Shane. You can't park there, mate, as he gets himself stuck behind a rock. And I think Zyko might be going for an emergency pickup onto Shane.
Certainly seems that way. Dots, they have posted up, ready for Razav to make that rotate, which will come through in a couple of seconds. Shots already starting to connect as Kevin's tries to land the spray, but not quite able to. This zone, it does a little bit more than tickle right now. Quite a bit of damage considering how rough of a position Razav are going to be in. So if they do make it out of here, they're going to be burning through a lot of meds, a lot of util to make it out. Instead, though, they opt for the vehicle rotate up to the north, not wanting to take the fight up against Dots, who right now are in a really good position. But again, it's about those next steps. If they aren't able to deal with these mirror players, their options are limited, and Batty is just getting absolutely lit.
Yeah, 12 HP, but he does have a little bit of cover here, so he'll get that first aid off. Shane did get picked up, so he's back up on his feet as Kevzin will still stay inside the blue. 3 first aids, and he's got Zyko as a target, but you missed those shots, Kevzin. What are you going to do now? Pop inside, go for the first aid, but oh my god, Mira might not know it, but they might have just given Kevzin the opportunity to try to find a way to join the rest of his teammates, because Fexen just about had enough angles. We see those mortar strikes being sent up to the sky.
Kevzin, though, I think he realizes just how difficult of a position he's in. He's going to try and hop in the bus, make a move, but he needs to do it quickly. Zyko looking over. He's going to see the movement. Can he land the shots? Seems like maybe not to be. Nyx now over on the west, looking towards potentially dangerous, who have themselves a rock, but not much more than that. I think over on the west, it's going to be a case of fighting for this hillside. As Hilarious takes the fight over towards Vanna, finds the knock onto that point player for Team Mirror, and this could be the opening for his team.
Axmeyer picks up over the ridgeline too, but Saitama gets a beautiful angle. Robert is going to go prone, but he's spotted out as he'll get knocked here as well. But no, he is going to get a knock the other way. Eventually, Takamura will trade him back. Angel and Bran, last 2 players up for Team KZito, as Team KZito look to cheese out a few extra points in this fight. Saitama, he's peeking up over the ridgeline. Angel spots him out, flicks over beautifully, and oh my god, are going to get wiped, and the race to res is now on. And Chunks, I'm looking at the map. I think they might just get at least one of them off, but the blue zone's going to put pressure on. But let's jump into the Rack 4 PD fight.
Nightavon takes down Nyx, but the Panzer in the hands of Nyx's teammate. Getting ready to connect with the hip fire. It's just not able to. Nightavon's still on full health. Gabri will get taken out by JMS as Brecken finished off now by Gabri. Only 1 player knocked for PD, but they cannot get the angle up this hill. Spoke too soon. Beautiful headshots coming out from Nightavon as he just tries to rotate wide. Will be caught out by Delirious. Hops in the front of the vehicle. Quickly jumps out. Ready to go for the heel. They're trying to pop the tires, but LFP is popping Delirious right in the head.
Yeah, Delirious in that position now as he tosses out the smoke grenades. PD backs to the blue, trying to front up now as they move into the circle from the edge. But as you can see, the blue at their back and nothing but open land to their front. This is going to be a difficult breach. And Nightavon is going to make the move. Stop and pick up Glock. Then stop and pick up Tony. And then make the send. Giancarlo, by the way, big nade over on the other side of the circle. He'll get a knock and a flush as he just stepped out of his compound and threw that one into the rice fields. And here comes the PD push we spoke about. They've made it to the shack. This is a checkpoint to try to get an angle with the Panzer. But JMS Chunks, he's got a Panzer of his own. This could be a first fire, first win for these 2 teams in this fight.
Who says first fire, first win when both these players could actually knock each other with the Panzers due to the travel time? If they fire them at the same time, both players could go down. There's Glock trying his best to swing round to the east, but look at this. Team Casito is starting to get involved. They're going to try and third party. As soon as they find an angle, that's exactly what they do. Brand goes for the spray, finds a hell of a lot of damage, but he can't find a knock onto either. Robert finishes the job off over onto Glock, looking for Nightavon as well, but gets down behind the cover. It's actually going to be Digon that finishes the job onto Glocks. Will be claiming the points. Race will be down in 10th as potentially dangerous do come out on top, but Team Casito set up and ready to gatekeep Tony.
Tony, last PD standing, and well, It might not stand for private detective, but it doesn't take too much of a detective to realize he's in a very tough spot now at the edge of the circle. Peeks out once more. Blue is still moving on, the ever-living danger of the zone. And Tony gets from one Dorito to the next. But unfortunately, Chunks, there's no third. There's no fourth. It is essentially, as soon as you step on out now, it's a firing squad. And Angel, well, he will be the demon that Tony did not realize that he could see. Fixin', he's going to get caught out by Lost, who was prone for Systematica as they go in the circle. And, well, I'm surprised Mira didn't spot him out.
No, I mean, honestly, he was just so low down. I think that Mira did spot him as they got out of the vehicle, but it was just too little too late. He had no bullets in that FAMAS, switched over to the DMR and only got one shot away before going down. Speaking of going down, that's Haven down, and that's Mira out in 8th position. Not the best performance from them, but still ultra aggressive, putting up strong numbers. Now attention has to be drawn over onto Mula. They've been down on the southern side for a little bit now. Want to try and finish Humble but Good over on the west. And now it's just a waiting game to see how this circle pops and ultimately whether Team Casito are going to have to move. And a big move comes out from Shane and Zico.
That circle pop, that's the one we're both waiting for right now. And well, it's certainly a pop. It goes all the way over to Team Casito, who not only is there a hill inside the circle, Chunks, when they leave the hill,
I think we may have just lost Gibson, but I know the point he was trying to make was about the crates down there that they are going to be able to use when they come down the hillside. Nate connects on Humble, but Good. That's the end of Silent Fury now. Brown from Team Casito still looking over in this direction, trying to finish off Mula Systematicas, as right now Team Casito have to be the favourites in terms of positioning to try and finish off some of these players. Angel looting up the crate. We'll see what he's able to find. He's got the 3 gear, but opts not to pick up the gun. As now Team Casito just grabbing everything they can, preparing for that end game util battle. I wouldn't be surprised to see them stacking up on the smokes pretty quickly. On the other side of things, Zico from Dots, nice headshot over onto Nazira right as Valiate and Shando start to close up the distance. Sure, he's drawn the attention away, but the rest of the squad, they are a lot closer than maybe that team up ahead of them realize. Giancarlo making some noises. Dots being ultra quiet. They are just going to wait. Nades will connect. Looks like XL have an idea that Dots are going to be up ahead of them. But as of right now, haven't got that solid confirmation. Zico hops in the vehicle, looking to try and regroup with his team. But on the south, it could be the opportunity for Mula Systematicas to try and get themselves involved. Zico sends it over. He's caught out by Angel. Nade goes up over the top, trying to connect onto Giancarlo. That seems to be on the money, but so's the nade. It's a trade apiece, and Valiate gets the flush, confirms the point. I don't think they're going to go for the revive onto Zico at this point, though, as he will be getting flushed out by Zello. Dots, 4 kills on the board, making it into the top 5, and looking to keep that momentum going, but they've only got a ridge to work with. Nazira solo up to the north, drawing the attention of Team Casito. Tires pops, head pops, and one more bullet should be... Ends now down in 5th position. We make it into the top 4. Dots with only a solo left up. They're going to try and find the revive onto Shando, but Mula Systematicas have used this knock as an opportunity to start pushing in aggressively. They've not quite come over the ridge yet. They are worried about XL up ahead of them. Team Casito further to the west, but right now, Mula Systematicas just getting ready to come over this ridge line. Should be able to finish off Dots, but they are being so hesitant. It's given Dots the opportunity to get 2 players back up, and Shando combined with Valley are not 2 players that you want to be taking this fight against. Circle has finally shifted away from Team Casito, but they've still got a ridge to work with as we hop on board with Bran. He tries to connect with those Dragunov shots as DZ will fall to Sonics. That's the end of him. One more XL player eliminated, and now Team Casito yet again gaining that central zone control. They have the high ground. They've got the cover. They're sending Angel up to the north, and this could be an attempt to potentially pinch onto XL. He stops a little bit short, holds back for the time being. Brand just trying to scout out for the info, but he needs to be so careful with that P90 off to his side, and he gets punished. Elo will be able to find the knock. Axmeyer looking for the trade, but he's not going to be able to find it. Angel finally does, but Team Casito down to just 2. Mixstall not in a position to try and get aggressive up the hill, but the nade connects onto Angel anyways. Team Casito having real trouble down to a solo. Will Mixstall decide to push this? Because it sounds like those teams down to the southeast, they're preoccupied. Valiate throws out the nade, doesn't connect, but right now, a lot of pressure coming on towards Mula Systematicas. They have to make something happen. If they're paying attention to the kill feed, they now know that there are teams getting involved over on the west. They need to use this as their opportunity to push. Mixstall getting caught out with damage from Robert. Down to low HP. No helmet left. Vest is nearly gone. Team Casito should be able to make it to 3, but I'm hearing mortars getting launched now for a second. No, that's emergency cover coming down for a little bit of extra safety, and this could be amazing for Team Casito. Not only do they have this hillside, they now might have extra cover when the time comes to move over it. Mixstall just keeping his head down, realizing Team Casito can't really push right now till as long as those teams down on the west are going to be causing problems for Team Casito when they come over this hillside. All the Systematicas, they send a vehicle direct into center, and Gibson, give me a break.
I'm back, and I'll give... no, I'll make you keep casting. No, I'll take over for a little bit here. You can give me the ropes. As Zig here from Mula Systematica looking to get a couple more kills. They've got a good position moving in from the south, but the zone will shift away, forcing them into this fight. And if XL can do anything here, it might just deliver the win on over. Remember, Dots, they've still got 2 players alive as well, but the terrain, you feel, would be forcing them into a battle with Mula Systematica first. Now, if I'm not wrong, Mula means money. So is it like systematic money? Well, they'll be looking to make some money here, Chunks, if they can get a couple more wins or maybe a bit of a stronger performance over tonight and tomorrow.
Certainly hoping for it. But right now, I mean, that systematic approach of playing slowly might not be best for them. It could have been better to get aggressive early on, try and take that hillside that Team Casito have, but dropped into play a little bit passive, which, I mean, they don't have the info. You can't blame them too much, but when they saw those Team Casito names popping up in the kill feed, that should have been their opportunity to strike. Team Casito went down to just a solo earlier on.
Yeah, but they're back to a 3. Like, no matter how bad things got for them, they're in a better position now, having got everyone back on their feet. Now, Valiant, still rocking the 9mm. Not a lot of... Well, I suppose the 9mm, the MP5, it does fire rounds pretty quickly, but should have enough to last into the end of the matchup. Shane Doe will be the first one to fire shots in anger as Lawson will be forced back into cover by the Dacia. He's going to go inside the blue as 2 members of Mula Systematica will go down in a blink of an eye. Mixstall steals an extra point away for Jolos, and they will say thank you very much, and he's still not done yet. The shield providing cover from Team K0 Chunks, and well, on the other side of the zone, I think that Mula Systematica, they've realized things ain't looking great, so they're backing off the fight with Dots and trying to re-engage with someone else somewhere.
I think that was the problem for Mula Systematica, though. They played a little bit too slow. They missed their opportunity, and now it's more of a waiting game, hoping Team Casito take a knock, and that could be their opportunity to move. Mixstall right now has just kept his head down, knowing that no team can really push him without being threatened by another, but Valiate proves him wrong because he just ego peaks, runs out in the open with the MP5, will be able to find the kill, makes it into the top 3 now for the team. Robert trying his best to scout out over onto Mula Systematicas. He just saw the head of a player, and Zig takes his off though.
Yeah, Zig gets to work. Mula Systematica are systematically deleted at the hands of Dots. Team K0 now in a 2v1. Valiant all alone will pop the first aid he gets A little bit of an angle, but he gets the shield down. But you feel like this is a matter of if and not when. Couple of stun grenades. You got to push. If you toss flash grenades, you got to get the angle on the other side. But you're letting Valiant get on the move. He hops on out and Valiant gets a knock on the other side. It's a 1 versus 1. You failed to push and you might have just given yourself a fail in the game. Valiant back on his feet, but it looks like Team KZito are back up to a 2. Dips back in behind his shield once more, Chunks, and well, you gotta feel there's no way Valiant can win this, right?
Seemingly not, but he gave it his best shot. Valiant with a valiant effort, but it's Team KZito with 12 kills and the win. A really impressive performance from them. A team that we have seen life out of throughout the tour so far, but they have just not been able to chain them together. They've managed to get a win with a lot of kills in game number 2 this weekend. Now it's just a case of trying to keep that momentum up over the next few games.
Yeah, momentum, look, it's like a snowball. It builds and it builds and it builds, but at the same time, in lobbies like this, that momentum can get shut down in the blink of an eye. Looking at one team, though, in the highlights at the start, Team 55 could do with getting some momentum of their own, but they got wiped early on in this one as well. This gunfight here, this feels like so long ago, Chunks.
Yeah, it was an action-packed game. It slowed down a little bit towards the end, but that's only natural when you have so many players dying in that early to mid game. And ultimately, the Circle played no small part in that. Think about how much water was involved in Phase 3 and onwards. I mean, it was just so difficult for teams to find positions, especially in such an open area. And I think it's why we saw so few full squads actually make it to the late game. It was just 1 or 2 players from each team that had just managed to survive.
Yeah, and then at the end of the game, you know what? Valia probably wins that if they don't get the res off. But because they got the res off, he was able to get it over the line. 22 points for them, another 13 for Dots, though, as they rocket up that leaderboard and puts them in a great spot. Mula Systematica with 7 more points, but Chunks, I'm looking like 55, 1 point in 2 maps. That is 2 out of 8 maps total. They need to get something going. I know they're already in the finals, but they're playing this for the money.
Yeah, so they really want to be in the top 4. They want to get a share of that cash, and ultimately, if this is practice for the Masters, it's not really boning too well right now. In terms of the total leaderboard, though, it's Team Mirror that hold on to first place. Now, remember, that cutoff position for qualification is 4th, but with Team Mirror already being qualified, that means, as it currently stands, Team Razav in 5th place would be in that qualification position, but still, we've got 6 games to go this week, and only 2 more this evening.
Look at the drop, though. 29, 28, 25, 11. Like, the cutoff for qualification, I know it's only after 2 maps, is only 11 points. If things keep going that way, it'll be a 40-point cutoff. It won't go like that, but it's crazy to kind of see that after 2 maps, so many teams are low on the points tally. But that's that for the second game. I think Chunks and I, we're going to jump into a very quick break. When we come back, it will be Rondo as we move on to the second half of the night. We'll see you in a few.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
back for game number 3. I promised you a short break, and I hope that break was short enough. We are ready to jump into Rondo. The second half of the night begins. Remember, this is the last PUBG Players Cup of the year. Tonight and tomorrow, we'll decide the final 4 teams to join the other 12 that have qualified already to try to compete for the final Masters of the event, which will be against EMEA. Chunks, I said it to you earlier, this has been emotional. Worked with you 6 months now, nearly every every week for 6 months, and it's all coming to an end.
It has. It's flown by quick, you know. As much as I think we both appreciate being able to go to bed at a reasonable time, again, it's been fun. We've suffered together. We've had amazing times, amazing games, and it looks like we may just see a hot drop for our final weekend. And I do want to give a special thank you as well to the people who don't, appear, don't have cameras, don't have microphones. It's the guys behind the scenes over at Wastify, Ricky and Guto, and everyone else who's involved. Huge shout out to them, and shout out to Carax for getting an opening knock like that.
They do have mics. They've been griefing us all year round. You just not heard it on the broadcast. But 55, they have increased their points tally by 300% in the opening minute and a half of game number 3 of the night, and they're looking to add a couple of more. Nix doesn't even have a gun. That's frustrating. He's like, yeah, there's guns there. Can I please take one off the wall? I promise I'll use it for the greater good. As Kerak will go on the hunt, they're going to get up onto the racetrack. But I see people asking in chat, yes, the final Masters of the year is called a Masters LCQ. The top 8 teams will take on the top 8 teams from EMEA to try to find out which region is the best at the end of the year. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a ton of fun. As for the dates, off the top of my head, Chunks, I do not know when that final Masters is going to be. We might be able to get confirmation before the end of the night, but will it be before? I think it might just be before all the teams that qualify from PS take their trip off to PGS.
Man, you asked me like I know the schedule here. I barely remember when we're going live for the Players Cups.
This is true. You have messaged
should know me better
like
by now.
You've messaged me 5 minutes before live a couple of times going, Gibson, are we casting tonight? Mira, they're crossing. Right, they should be dead to rights. Robert should have had them dead to rights, but because of the stun grenade and because of the micro Uzi, could not land the shots. Now, Angel will get a knock on the Fixin, but is it too little too late? Mira have made the crossing, and now Angel, he's got Peeker's advantage here around the wall.
Really nice trades coming out from Team Mirror, but ultimately that JS9 is just too strong, being able to take down 2 now. Axmeyer follows it up with another. Team Mirror in real trouble. Team Casito need to make something happen with the util. That's exactly what they do. Fana falls, only going to be Haven left up. He's surrounded. Mirror eliminated by Team Casito. We said Casito, they needed to carry on that momentum from last game. That's exactly what they've done. And they are in a really good position going forward. They've just got a load of loot. Sure, they don't have the easiest rotation in, but ultimately 4 points on the board this early on has got to be a bit of a confidence boost.
Yeah, Robert wasn't able to get the knock, but they eventually did manage to wipe out all of Team Mira. Now 4 happy men's have got Silent Fury not too far away. Kira, will say hello to Command X and good night as he gets a couple of shots with that dragon off up here. And Rayan, humble and good. He's going to jump his way over. We'll go silent step for just a little bit. Oh, you got to hit. Oh, no,
oh,
Kira!
No.
Clicks on empty on the mag. That's why you've got to keep an eye on your ammo count at all times. Nazira will confirm out that kill. But Silent Fury with 2 players left alive. This isn't over yet. Look at the spread of 4 happy men's. There's still a chance to find a knock and maybe a flush.
Kira, get out through that doorway. Seems like they have a read on where the player is, but they don't know exactly where. Digod down to low HP and ultimately down to none now. Flushed out 4 HP, 3 kills on the board as one of their players, Giancarlo, gets called out with a 3x spray. Humble and good, able to find the knock as he goes for the heal. 4 HP just going to swarm in, and they need to do it quickly because Giancarlo is bleeding out quick. They do not want to allow this player the opportunity to get the flush as he goes the pre-nade down the stairs. Tatsumi decides to back away from the staircase, waiting for it to blow. Now's the opportunity to push. Do it quick, get that blue chip, and get your teammate back in the fight.
Yeah, Nazira steps on up. He's got himself a micro Uzi. He'll get a kill. His 4 happy men will wipe them out. Humble and Good, unable to hold his own in the corner. They'll get the res off on to Giancarlo now. Well, I should say recall being the technical term, as they'll pick up his blue chip. Rezav drive-buying AKA across the middle of the circle, just south of Zhao Tin. It's a bit of wacky races going on here, Chunks, as these teams go by. And just up the top of your screen, we'll see, I think as an XL, maybe rotating by right on that pickup.
I have no idea. There are so many teams dead center right now. When we get a moment, I'll give you a moment to talk about Donuts for maybe the last time through the Players Tour, because I think this is a perfect time to describe your theory.
Yeah, so Donuts, I always like to say Donuts taste better than breadsticks, so no kills on the map is better than 1. I mean, sorry, different donuts you're talking about. The inverse donut effect,
That's
which I've trademarked with sciences. Inside of Phase 1, a lot of teams will go to become the lovely filling inside a donut, the jam, might you say. And what that does, instead of having a hole in the center, the hole is on the outside, as it opens up a ton of free space. That's exactly what's happening now. So most of our teams are within a kilometer of the center of the circle. And that leaves a ton of real estate for all these teams to rotate from, the ones who rotate in late. Now, it is a little bit, I suppose it's a little bit narrowed in, or the focus isn't as strong as it would be because of the fact that part of the circle is unplayable way off towards the west. But you can still see it, right? Like, look at this. Oh, my drawing button needs to be turned on again. Look at this. All the teams in here, that means all this area here is free for all the teams that are rotating in late. And that was a beautiful, beautiful donut image I drew there, wasn't it? That was a
really good donut, actually. I got to give you credit there.
It even had, like, icing and sprinkles on it.
Impressive. Got me in the mood for donut now. What? We always do this, and it's like 2 a.m., so I can't go and get one. What a shame.
Yeah, but you have to remember, our viewership base is in the US. And in the US, it is like 7 p.m., 7:30, so they can still get donuts.
That is true, but
in a way, if Crafton want to partner with any big burger chain, you can pay me any royalties you like for all this free advertising.
You got to remember, we are all gamers, though, and to get a donut requires going outside, and that is the difficult part.
Not in the US. Not in the US.
That's a good point.
They have all of these crazy websites where people will bring donuts to your door.
I refuse to believe this. This is just a pipe dream at this point.
I swear. They open up their phone. They open up a nondescript app. Other nondescript delivery apps are available. And they pick donuts. And they pay like a little bit of delivery. And the guy will bring donuts to your house. Not only that, I've heard they'll bring other food of it as well. It's insane.
So it's not just donuts. This is blowing my mind, Gibson.
Yeah, I live in rural Ireland.
They don't know how we live over here in Europe.
Yeah, I live in rural Ireland. We have no delivery services available whatsoever. Like, if you want food, you have to go get it yourself.
Hey, it's the land of the free, hey? As now.
Home of the brave.
Let's go and look in at this circle and see what's going on. There isn't all too much, honestly, because usually when we see these inverse donuts like we've talked about, everybody just goes dead center and everyone ends up fighting super early on. We've not really seen that today. I mean, it's kind of a slow early game, isn't it? We've had a couple of team fights, but they're not really in the center of the circle. What I do wonder is about these players and teams that are going to try and move in a little bit later now. You can see Giancarlo. He's been called in through a res beacon. His teammates are nowhere to be found right now, so he's almost playing as the scout for his team. Without a gun, without util. He's really just got to blind send it in here, hope that he can loot something, then make a move.
Yeah, it's a really rough, a really good spot. So I was going to say rough, but it's a great spot that Debbie Tirarmas photos have, as they can scout things out. They've got nice 360 views of this whole section of the map, as another e-pickup will make its way in. But for the most part, Chunks, everybody's now made their way inside the zone. And it also looks like 4HP have got their man's back, and they're now making their way in. Giancarlo, he's going to hit the deck just to the north of Fong Tun. You can, right on cue, Giancarlo
no,
not
he's
here.
Dead. Oh, and look at this circle as well. Oh, that shift is the worst thing that could have happened to Giancarlo. He's going to hop in a vehicle. He's going to try and send it. And honestly, I think that might just be his best bet. Rather than trying to loot, rather than trying to potentially get spotted out and take a fight, hop in a car, get a move on, and try and group up with your team. Because they're already in the air off of this EP. They're going to have prio in terms of their position inside of this zone. So just get in there, try and get some loot out of the compound that they choose.
Yeah, watching Giancarlo. He's got a... not this. Giancarlo, no! No! Turn. Don't go here. Keep going, keep going. Juventus are giving this up. They thought this was a crash. They didn't realize this was a fresh spawned in player, and they've backed off. Giancarlo has dodged one hell of a bullet there.
But look at this now from 4 HP. They didn't even take a compound. No wonder he's had to send it into something. They're just taking the high ground instead. DTMF, they're going for the sprays over on towards Dots. As Valiate will fall, the rest of Dots will fall back. They're actually heading over towards Jiao Tin right now. So it looks like they're content taking a bit of a city fight as Juventus try and rotate past them. No shots really landing from either team, but they are close, and that Panzer is lethal at close range. It just can't connect. Zico tries to go for the spray with the BSS, but no luck with it. Shane Doe going to try and find himself a Panzer, but again, it's just a little bit far.
Yeah, just too far away. Switches over to the Hollow, trying to get another few shots off, but fortunately, they will not get a knock. I think Barry's going to look for some more 9mm here inside the compound. It's funny, right? Shane Doe seems to be the only one on Dots that's using ARs. The rest of the squad are fully locked on being 9mm menaces. Debbie Tirar, they've got their spot. They've got Tung Tung Sahura not too far away as they peek on over. DTMF, that's another team that really need to get things going, right?
Yeah, it feels like, you know, we've only had 2 games, but so few teams have sponged up so many points. I think there's a lot of teams in the lobby now, you could say, need to pick things up. And ultimately, whoever wins this game, if they're not in the top 4, it's going to give them a significant boost. So right now, DTMF, they are hoping almost that Tung Tung Sahur head towards them a little bit so they can start finding some damage. But as of right now, Tung Tung Sahur, they're pretty happy with the split that they've got. They're very central inside the circle. They go covering the compound nicely. So they're not too worried about being crashed.
Yeah, the crash... Like, there's too much to play. Like, there's too many zones that crashes are unlikely to come in. Like, you look at 55, they're in the center of the circle all the way up. You see a ton of teams in and around the center, but again, unless you see a knock, people are not going to give up their position. Chunks, have you looked at the southwest, by the way? Giancarlo has got all of Rezav around him, and I don't think they know he's there.
It doesn't seem that way. I mean, he's just kind of playing stealth mode at the moment. But look, if you look on the map with exclamation point map, you can see that Rezav are all kind of looking in his direction. Yeah, they've heard the vehicle. They're all shooting his way. But Giancarlo, oh, if he kept his head down, he would be in prime position to play late into this zone. Might be able to find himself a different position, but it looks like he's actually headed towards AKA. But this shift, this is going to be brutal for a lot of these teams. Look at Juventus, a team that was so posted up. They're now going to have to move potentially through Jiao Tin, which is already very contested for a phase 3 circle.
Yeah, so look at elsewhere, right? Giancarlo still in this position inside the blue. I think they know he's here now, so Pana's going to wrap around. Giancarlo will fall, and Pana might just go down to the blue, but I think he popped on that first aid, and he might have had a jammer pack, and I think he did. That'll keep him alive for just a little while. Tung Tung Sahur still in that little bit of a split, 2-2, with 2 players on the edge of these walls. The other 2 a little bit further towards the north. But Chunks, look at the circle. Jiao Tin has 3 teams inside it. 1 team rotating past the edge, 2 teams to the north of it, and they all need to migrate into the circle.
It's going to be brutal. I think it's going to be one of those last to leave situations where that hillside by Jiao Tin is so brutal. If you're in the city right now, you don't want to take the risk of being the first to move up it because you will just get absolutely lit up. Now, if you're a team like Juventus and you're moving in from the north, then yes, you can thread that needle and potentially set yourselves up in a bit of a gatekeeping position to prevent teams from moving out. But at least for right now, I think the teams in Jiao Tin, they're only going to move when they absolutely have to.
Tony from Potentially Dangerous. Just on a bit of a scouting mission. They're spread out just a little bit as Necro will fire a bolty shot, but eats one in return and drops down to 19 HP. Gabri with the Dragonov. Remember, the effective range of the one-tap headshot is not as far as it used to be, but it still hits like a truck. We've seen since the DMR update, people electing more so to use some of these 7.62 DMRs again, like the Dragonov, as opposed to the Mini 14, which has seen its... Well, Chugs, I'm going to be honest. The Mini 14 play rate has dropped dramatically over the course of the last few weeks, with people electing to use the MK instead, and even then, the MK is not as frequent as it used to be. While all this is going on, though, 4 HP, I think the correct term for what they're doing right now is chilling.
Some would say ratting, but I guess...
No, chilling.
Tomato, and all that. They're chilling up there, and they are getting ready to rat whichever team rotates down below them, because they haven't really made much noise. They are keeping their position quiet, not wanting to give anything away, and then when those teams down below them do start to make the move, they should just be able to swoop in and cause some problems. But we'll see how the circle ends up shifting first. For all we know, it goes hard over to the east, and it actually keeps them in. As of right now, AKA will have Nanu coming back in, and yeah, the circle, it goes to the east, but not as far as they would have liked, and honestly, that's a pretty wide open cross to make, especially with Potentially Dangerous and Tung Tung Sahur already posted up to the west of them.
Yeah, look at how many teams. There's still 14 teams alive going into Phase 4. 52 players, as everybody had found a home, but it looks like a lot of those homes are about to be demolished. Some of those homes are about to become broken as they try to move on in. Team KZito moving in as Bran as he looks to build something for his team, and Brandees will say he's the superior Bran inside this lobby as the... Oh my god, Robert's going to get taken out by the VSS as well. This rotate from Team KZito, I was going to say couldn't have gone worse, but it could have. You could have lost all 4. But 2 players down and the other 2 moving in one vehicle and on a collision path with Dots as they move their way in.
Yeah, Dots just completely sending it right now. Jumentus will be able to take down Sonics on the rotate, finding the flush to go with it, as well as Mula Systematica just slowly coming down this cliffside, not wanting to overexpose themselves, using the bushes nicely as Necro with a huge 2-man grenade finishes off Team Casito. Last game's winners, they started off with a decent few kills, managing to wipe out a squad, but unfortunately just so congested in this late game that weren't able to keep up that momentum. Glock trying to land a spray over onto the Dots players right now as they hold onto the wall. It looks like Potentially Dangerous taking a fight on a few fronts as Necro will go down. This nade from Zig could be big.
It is so hard to get this nade right for Zig. His only option really is to go for the underhand technique, or the other is to bounce it high off the mountain on the other side. But I think he's electing to reposition with Phase 4 blue on the way. I think I hear a BRDM being called in the distance as one of these teams will elect to give themselves
finally
a bit more cover. Chunks is disappointed we've not had a BRDM all night long, but there ain't no time like the present. Glock, what are you doing that to poor Carpe Diem for? He didn't ask for that as they rotated on into the circle. But you know the guys in Potentially Dangerous, they're never going to turn down a delivery of a free point. Dots are hoping to do the exact same, but they cannot get to the Pika bus as it drives by.
That is rough there for Shane. He found the headshot, but couldn't finish off the job. Breacon's going to go down as Badilul tries to connect with the grenade. Over onto the player up ahead of him. Smoke will bloom, so provides a little bit of extra safety, but it's going to be Coyote who's able to find the knock. Badilul ultimately the one to claim the point. Zello surrounded, as is the rest of his team. AKA starting to move in from behind. Nade will come out from DZ. It looks close. Is it cooked correctly, though? Zig opens up with long-range shots down on towards Blood, as in the end it's going to be Dan Shin to open the fight on the other end of things. Varus able to find the trade onto Dan Shin, but it's a bit of an afterlife nade to finish off the job alongside Falcon, and that's Zolos down in 12th.
Yeah, Jolos dealt with now 55, 2 kills. Remember, they've increased their point tally by 300% this game alone. Mula Systematica, Zig's going to use his Bugatti parachute to try to get around the corner. Takes a ton of damage, but you're not getting in a circle like that. Kaka from Tung Tung Sahura will get a knock on the Togod from DTMF. A little bit further away as Abric will try to use the blue as some cover as he wraps around, but Pana's going for the res inside the circle. No explosive utility can be utilized here as, oh my god, have none inside the back pockets. And Razav will get themselves back up in numbers, and the smoke will provide them with just enough cover to get themselves fully, or back up to 75 HP and potentially fully back into the fight.
Looks like Averick had the read on where one of those players would be, probably assuming that the revive has come out now, decides to move back instead. OMG not wanting to overexpose themselves on this, realizing that Razav have been able to regroup, and ultimately they've only got 3 players themselves. Blada tries to open up with the spray, but not going to be able to. It's his teammate that does the damage instead. Razav putting in work to finish off OMG, but they don't realize that there's still a player prone in front of them. Nice spray to finish off OMG. In 11th position, Razav now down to 2. Gonna look to try and get the revives, but we'll head back over to the west side where we just have so many solos all around the same position. Sorry, it's a solo and a duo.
Yeah, they are going for the res, and AKA have a read on it. They're sending it up as Blood with a VSS will find loss, and well, all that tells me is the VSS is better than the Lynx, as he's able to wind him up, and now Blood focuses on KX, and KX is going to eat some 9mm here as well. The last Mula Systematica player standing. Good nade taunt. Oh my god, that's almost a perfect nade. 42 damage dealt with as the flash grenades being thrown, but Jumentos Debaya, they've got themselves 1 or 4 kills on the board and looking to add 1 more as these 2 solos battle it out on the edge of the circle.
But Bloods now just has no util to work with. I think that KX still suspects he's over on that rock. He's certainly playing like he could have flanked around. Instead, Bloods decides to make a move, but could end up getting caught out in the open. That Dragonov versus the VSS. I mean, if we proved it's better than the Link, surely it's got to be better than the Dragonov, right?
You'd hope so. You'd hope so, but he takes a big tag there from range. Goes for the first aid. KX will lock in the position, and Blood will line up his shots and then peek out from the side. Full auto on the VSS, and the blue zone's going to force him out, but a nice headshot from KX goes to show that one well-placed 7.62 round is still going to outperform a couple of chest shots with the VSS. Potentially dangerous. They've still got 3 players up in the center of the circle. Glock is in that bodega right in the middle. Everyone else a little further away, and him and Gabri are in essence a tag team in the circle. Tony then is the troll on the bridge. He looks to keep everyone else out, but I feel like, Chunks, if Dots can deal with Razav or Razav can deal with Dots, that those 2 teams, whichever those 2 teams does better, have a really good chance of putting one brilliant game together playing on the wall.
I agree. I think that potentially dangerous, while they may have the more central and the more fortified position, they're going to be split off. They're going to be worrying about too many teams at any given time. And I wonder how effectively they're going to be able to group up and finish off a team effectively without losing players. It's 55 Esports. They're over on the west. They're not too concerned. They do need to be careful of those 2 players from Tung Tung Sahur. They will have spotted out the vehicle. Shots will be going their way, but Tung Tung Sahur just going to stay where they are, using the vehicles for cover for the time being. RNZ with some nice mini shots, but it's Glock that's able to return the fire with retaliatory damage. As right now, Razav, they're going to make the send. It's Eco that's the first player to fall. Badilul finds the trade over towards Pana, looking for more Razav players, as I don't think they spot out Nubsky on the wall.
Oh, they see him now. Shane sees him now. Sprays through the window. Shane will find the knock and goes for the instant flush. Kevson still alive on the edge of the circle, but I think Shane wanted the res, but before he could get there, Beleda was Johnny on the spot. Beleda now is going to peek once more. Tries to get Shane from the angle his teammate just fell from, but Shane is going to fall from shots on the other side. Kevson's the one with the cover, leaving Badilul as the last player standing now as he gets pressured from multiple sides. Beleda will confirm out that extra kill, and the battle for the war looks to have been won, at least at this point in time, by Team Razav.
And it looks like they're going to be able to get the revive on towards Panna as well as the smoke is up. Badila will still be alive, but it looked as if he was spotted. I'm not sure whether they were just random shots through a bush or whether he did see the movement in there. But right now, Rezav are just swarming in. I think that was a BZine landing over towards Baddy, just trying to force him off of the wall. He lays down prone. Frag grenade connects. It's going to be Kevins who finds the headshot, making it into the top 5 and making it 10 kills now for Team Rezav. As Tatsumi with a really nice headshot onto Gabri. Kira with the same. That's the end of Gabri, and potentially dangerous now. Looking like they're going to start falling apart with only 2 players left up, not in a position where they can trade for each other.
And Kira is going to use the bike to get a little bit closer to that second bridge. So Tony holds one bridge. Glock does not want to give up his position. Gabri is in essence dead to rights. If Glock elects to give up his position, it could be trouble. Now Tony might be tempted to make a move, but as you can see in your picture-in-picture, Nazira desperately looking to hold him away. This is really, really hard. Glock's going to throw out a smoke to give himself some cover, but he's going to eat some rounds on the other side. But look at that shift now, Chunks. We spoke about it. Pipa and the rest of 55 on one side of the wall. KX with his Dragonov is just to the south of it. But now Team Rezav, they've got to get on the move. I think 4HP are in a fantastic spot now in this zone.
You think so? It's just about getting out of this bridge, honestly. It is not an ideal position, but I think the fact they have those folding shields is really helping them out in this spot. Tony got caught out when going for the res. He might just be able to get it. Glock's still up, so he's providing that cover just in case any of those 4 HP players manage to make the peak. But right now, PD doing a really good job of getting their teammate back up. Now it's time to consolidate.
If I'm PD, I'd be very tempted to get a couple more teammates over by Glock's position just because of the platform it's on and the angles it gives. KX, by the way, he can see everybody on the side of team. Oh, no. Oh, no. He sees everybody, and I forgot that he had the MG3. One spray, one hold of left click, and a couple of good transfers, and he's going to get to work. It's going to be made even easier because Pipa will get the knock on to Kevson, and now KX has got a decision to make. Do you go for the easy knock and go for the flush, or do you feel you can catch 55 in a little while?
He's found both.
I think his decision's made. Decision's made. He steps on out. He sprays one. Gets the knock. Transitions over. KX, you gotta hit those, and he does. Instead of getting 1 extra point for waiting, he gets 2 more on the board, plus a 3rd for the placement. He falls. No! He gets to the smoke and he gets into the circle. Huge for KX.
Just about getting over to safety now as 55 Esports look over in the direction of 4 HP. So this might have just been the saving grace for KX. He's inside the zone. He's got the wall. He's got cover. And I don't think 55 Esports are wanting to push. They are preoccupied dealing with the Kira from 4 HP. As right now, the only players inside of the circle are the 2 off to the east from 4 HP. Glock and just about Karak. So you got to think KX, his next move is go to the northwest, try and repeat the process of what you just did over on 55 Esports.
They've got so much cover though. Like 55, they've got the wall, they've got the Blancos, they've got the Doritos. They do not really need to go aggressive. They know that at some point he's going to have to come around the corner, and you got to be waiting. Stun grenades at the right for Pipa. So what is essentially happening is Pipa's throwing the stuns, the rest is holding everything else. Potentially dangerous are full sending it. Gabri gets 1, Tony the second. Potentially dangerous, owning things here by the bridge. They've left Glock by the bodega, but they've really destroyed 4 Happy Men's chances of victory, and they know exactly where Kira is standing. Big send for potentially dangerous, and they manage to find success off the back of it, but the job ain't done yet.
I can't help but notice either Kira is down to his last bandage, so he's got no heals to work with. I'm not sure about the boost situation either. As Pippa throws out the flashbang, KS is going to have to try and make a move through that smoke sooner or later. That one seems to be on the money. Runs out into the blue, trying to get the pre-fire, but it's not going to work out for him. Will end up falling down to the zone, so at least isn't giving away any further points. Kira will be spotted out, tries to lay prone, but caught out by Pippa. It's down to a 2 versus 3. PD still have a player player up in that tower. And now they've got 2 in a fairly central position. Really just going to focus on holding this wall, making sure nobody's able to swing out.
Yeah, 3 versus 2. Pipa and Karak up against Tony, Glock, and Gabri. The blue zone is at the backs of 55. You've got to assume, right? Everything screams this is a PD win. The circle, the positions, the angles, the numbers, but this is PUBG. Things can change in an instant. Pipa's going to make his big first move. He gets close to the rock, will take a lot of damage, but there's a Panzer in. Oh, yeah. Pipa should fall, and he does. Glock gets that knock. Now it's down to Karak. This is excellent from Potentially Dangerous. They know the scenario, they know the situation, they know their opposition, and they know that they're eating some chicken. That is it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. PD pick up a 7-kill victory in game number 3 of the night.
Really nicely done there from PD with only 3 players standing. I was a little bit concerned. They were super split up. I thought they would get distracted taking multiple fights at once. And honestly, they just made a really good revive, which saved them their game. Once they got that revive, they saw that teams would get involved. They were able to isolate individuals or duos, push through when they weren't expected to, and be able to capitalize, punishing squads and catching them off guard. So really nicely done from PD. Sure, it's not the huge number of kills that we've seen in previous matches, but honestly, to be able to get a win given the situation that they had, that was so good from PD.
I think you got to give 55 credit as well. Like, they had no momentum at all going into this map. I think they had 1 kill over the first 2 maps. They got early kills on the board, a few more, and a 2nd place. That'll help them a lot as they look to move in. Rezav had some nice moments, as did Jumentos, with blood showing off the VSS, but in the end, just the position that PD took early on, they took full advantage of it.
Yep, really, really well played. Surprising to see so many players up so late into the game, but it's that inverse donut. And when there's a city in play, a lot of teams will just keep their heads down, not make a sound. KX, though, MVP of the game right there, just waiting to get those MG3 kills. Really beautifully done and making it into the top 4 for the team. So really nice work on that front. But ultimately, it's Potentially Dangerous that get themselves the win, and a much-deserved one as well, which will net them a decent number of points. Speaking of which, let's take a look over at the leaderboard for that match.
Yeah, 55. Well, I said they needed it. They went from 1 point to 16. Yes, this is just a match leaderboard, but I'm doing some quick caster maths here. Potentially Dangerous, they'll rocket up into the top 4 with their 17. Rezav should not be too far away either. But Team Mira, after everything started so well, things have slowed down a lot over the course of the night. Rack 4 yet to, I suppose, failure to launch would be the description of how things have gone for them so far. We look at that overall leaderboard, Chunks.
6th place is the qualification spot as it currently stands. Team Mirror still in the top 4. Potentially Dangerous hold on to 5th place. They've already qualified, so 4 HP as it currently stands will be qualifying through, but there's still plenty of games to go. Still 1 more to go this evening. We are going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with game number 4.
Still alive. Just eviscerate the team just like that. They have taken the game.
Like a runaway train that can't be stopped. The games are coming thick and fast tonight, but at some point that stop sign is going to be put up for the train, and this is it now, Chunks. The final game of the night. We're here on Erangel, game 4 of 4, and probably the first real player-friendly flight path we've had, which can only mean one thing. It's going to be a nasty zone.
Yeah, give us that Primorsk, Sosnovka circle. We've seen a couple of them already. That'd be a nice way to wrap things up for this evening. But you know what? I can't remember the last time I've seen a Kameshki circle.
And guess what? It'll be a while before you see one yet.
Let me dream. We'll see. Look, let's see where phase 1 goes.
I'll tell you this, in 23 seconds when the circle's going to pop, it's going to have a little bit of Millie, and it's going to have a little bit of the main island, because that's just what the circle does. And because I've said that, it's going to go to Zarki. So, in reality, between the two of us, we've said the circle could be anywhere on this map, which is typical caster logic, right?
Yeah, well, I also think it's going to be dead center and a pretty standard circle, so... You know, who knows? I think we're covering all bases now. See, I was right. We were both right. There's a little bit on Millie Island as well. We're so smart.
We're so good. Honestly, you'd swear that every caster out there, like us, has just thrown random things out in the wall, and every once in a while you get it right. Well, guess what? That's what we do. Like, it's.
Hey, I predicted a lot of those Milter shifts when we've been down on a Millie Island circle. You know, so. Yeah, gotta give me some credit there.
Well, it's one of those things, right? I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. Everybody's favorite caster does it. It's like, yeah, we're going to predict the circle. The only thing we can tell you for a fact is that it's got to touch the flight path. So, as long as a millimeter of the circle touches the flight path, it's a possibility. But this circle right now always puts up a couple of interesting wrinkles, right? Because the last few times we've had the circle, it always seems to go over towards... It either goes towards like shelter and prison, or it goes towards Milta. The last few that I've had, or at least that's the one that stands out the most. But at the same time, how many apartment circles have we had whenever we've had this in phase 1? Like, all these players have to try to guess all that. Like, if we're being honest, Chunks, a lot of these teams and IGLs are going to look at the circle and go, right, there's so many possibilities of where this could go. So let's just put ourselves in a good position where we can either bug out very quickly if phase 2 pops away, or if phase 2 pops our way, we can build the game from there. Like, that's all it's about. Get yourself in a position where you can either move or you're happy whenever that next circle shift happens.
I mean, that's the whole thing with PUBG, isn't it? You want to set yourself up in a position where you have as many options as possible going forward. And I think that's the interesting thing. I do speak a little bit about how meta shifts back and forth. I know, before I came back for the Players Tour, the last time I casted, the meta was very much take the edge, fight your way in, go for the kill points. Things have definitely shifted since then. Teams want to go back to kind of the original PUBG Esports way of get a strong position in the center, get kills off of that. And I do wonder whether we'll see a bounce back, but as of right now, it's about get a central position where you know you have good rotation, you know you have good lines of sight, and ultimately, don't take a hot drop in the last game of the evening like 4HP are doing right now.
Yeah, it's a Pachinki hot drop, though, so it's going to be slow. It's not going to end anytime soon.
They're in circle.
Yeah, they're in circle. They're on rooftops. It's just a scouting mission. I think that one thing I will say is it's a DNA thing too. You're talking about like style of play. It is a DNA thing. Like, I feel like the core of the old Luminosity roster / the old Falcons roster / all the other names they've gone under, they always like to play a lot closer to center. And then you have teams like Falcons who have historically always preferred to play not necessarily edge, but they're comfortable with playing from the outside and working their way in and picking up tons of kill points on the way. The problem is a lot more teams in the Americas have picked up that style of play. Like, I don't know if you watched any of the PAS quals, but Mira and Falcons, their like thought process on how the game works and how the rotates should go led to them clashing with each other on the edges of the circle so many times. And I feel like a lot of teams in the Americas look at Falcons and go, that's how I want to play. They're the platforms to success. They got success internationally. They've had success domestically. And teams want to play that way. The only problem is, Chunks, not every team has got Shrimsy, Kick, Tig, and H1, right? Like, those 4 are the gold standard of North American players. And it's very hard to replicate what they can do. But a lot of these South American teams are getting very, very close.
Yeah, you got to be able to back it up, don't you? And I think it's one thing being like, we're going to replicate this, we're going to do this. A lot of the time, it's finding why they approach things in a certain way. And that's the thing that you really struggle to get out of players a lot of the time. I think me and you as casters, Gibson, maybe have a little bit of an advantage there where we can say, why did you do this? Why did you do that? But if you're a player, are you going to give that away to another team? Are you going to say, oh, this is why we did this. This will work better. So... yeah, I don't know. I think everyone has to approach PUBG from their own point of view, take things that work well for other teams, try and implement them into your own, but ultimately you have to have that kind of zest of your own as Kira tries to land some shots over onto the clown car up ahead. Will get hit with a seat swap, instead starts to make a move away.
Yeah, the seat swap, get on over, get on the drive. I think they're lucky. You know, they're lucky to have all 4 players alive, but they're not going to complain. They'll keep moving in. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Rack 4 tonight? Because I feel like we're not seeing the type of form that qualified them for this event. Like, they're struggling to get up to tempo a little bit. But I also want to add, I feel like they've been very unlucky when it comes to some of the rotates they've gotten into.
I mean, you said... What has stood out from what I've seen? I mean, ultimately, unfortunately, we haven't seen anything out of them. I can't think of any real kind of... yeah, I know people are going to be upset about that, but we haven't seen anything out of them. That's the sad part. Like, yeah, we've seen them involved in engagements. I can't think of them winning a team fight so far tonight. So hopefully they can prove me wrong. Hopefully in this last game, I mean, they're going for a very central position early on. They might be able to cause problems for 55, but ultimately we haven't seen anything. And that needs to change, because with only 4 games remaining tomorrow, there is a big jump to try and climb.
Yeah, it's a big jump, but I think because of the way that some of the teams at the top have played, it's not as big a jump as it could have been. And you know what? I'm not even asking for a win. Like, if you just get double digits, you know, 9, well, I'd say 10 points, but even if you're around the 10-point mark at the end of this one, the end of this map from a performance, you'll give yourself a chance going into day 2. And that's all these teams are going to want. And I feel like they'll get up to the tempo. I want them to get up to the tempo. Mulu Systematica, a team that are very high and very low. You know, there's no in between for them. They're on the south side, an Apps and then Dog Hill shift that they've got themselves, or split that they've got themselves in right now by the Dog Shacks. I like the aggression. Like, you can get into Apps a lot easier than you can get out of it. So keep 2 players safe. And then if you need to bug out, they can join you.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to do it. Just make sure that, obviously, Apps doesn't get taken, because that can be very, very difficult to try and fill in if there's already squads posted up inside apartments. Varus looking down the hill for one of those Juventus players. It's Brandy's that's rotating a little bit ahead of the team. The rest of them, by the way, are over towards Pachinki. Does he see any vehicles? Does he think this is free, or potentially dangerous, going to be able to get themselves a free kill out of this one?
They're not the type of team that turned down a free point, that's for sure. As it looks like it's not going to happen just yet. Juventus will send Brandy's on, and as he goes past that Smurf compound and makes his way a little bit closer to the Pachinki Barns. These 2 buildings just north of the trenches that give you a line of sight on anybody that's coming in and out of Pachinki. You can throw throwables inside the trenches if needs be, if the circle shifts that way a little while later. But the main thing is, you're somewhat near the middle. You know, you can rotate out if you have to. It's that thing I spoke about, just getting yourself in a position where you can rotate later if needs be. I think Victor's going to go a little bit further, but Chunks getting ready for that next shift, and, well, there you go. Look at all the free space that AKA have to rotate into.
Let's take a look over at Dots, though, right now, because they're already taking a fight up against Team Razab. They were riding next to each other for the longest time, and wow! What a shift over towards Mansion. Team's going to have to make a significant move as... Did Zico just bolt Kevin's out of the vehicle?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Zico is that guy.
He's him.
I now bow down to my new Bolty Overlord and Zico as he picks up that knock. and flush. Nubsky, but yeah, that on the map feed, so much free space now over by that prison side as the circle shifted kind of to where I said usually does in circles like this. So we'll see a great migration as everybody on the west gets on the move, shifting from the west to the east. And I'm actually, if you've got the map feed open, I know that we're going to see Mira potentially go head-to-head with Dots here, but if you've got the map open, potentially Dangerous are making a big brain rotate. Fana gets the knock on to Shane Doe and that instant flush, but they're going all the way south. They're going to come up around Milta and make their way into the circle by Prison. It is big brain, it is clever, and I love it.
Yeah, Prison is such a strong position inside this zone. And again, Rack 4 going down early. It's Tung Tung Sahul that come out on top of this one. Zico looking for some more bolt shots. Not going to be able to find them. Instead, find shots heading his way as Haven able to land some over onto the vehicle. Jumentus, Mula Systematica, both running head-to-head. Losses in, gets the knock, but Robert from Team Casito steals it away from inside the compound.
Yeah, point on the board for Team KZito. They've had themselves a pretty nice night at chicken dinner. Yes, they are Team Cheese, but you know what? Cheese can go well with chicken every once in a while. Just ask any French chef. Don't at me. As Dots get more pressure from Team Mira, who are not done the hunt. They've got themselves not just a dot on the back of Dots, but a target on their back as Fana gets another knock onto Zico.
Fana will find the flush to go with it. Looking over up towards Badil's window, but not able to connect. And honestly, if your Team Mira looking at what options are ahead of you, at how late you're probably going to get into this zone, I would opt to just post up over on this hillside for the time being. Sit in this position, wait for the next phase, unless they identify that the compound up ahead of them is free, in which case I can imagine they probably try and take that one. I think the risk of taking anything else that's further in is the fact that you're going through an open field, you don't know what's taken. Granted, the next compound up ahead of them is free, but it's a high-risk, high-reward play, and, Robert hoping to get a reward with this grenade.
Yeah, toss it in, get it in the right spot, it gets rid of the shield, but the second one is good. Robert will get the knock on the Lawson, and this is essentially worst case scenario for Mula Systematica. Brand's going to peek around the other side. Smoke grenades are tossed as he gets another knock onto Zig, leaving just KX standing alongside Loki, and they are moving up if they can, but this ain't a good spot to be in for Mula Systematica, Chunks. That dip is only good if there's enough teams around that protect you from each other. But that, I want to say, that's that situation where you've got 3 or 4 teams that stops anyone from peeking over the ridgeline has not occurred yet. So being in that dip too early can lead to problems like this.
Look at this from OMG. That is smart. I think they saw the players. I assume it was an EP that brought them onto the roof. They sent players down the bottom. They sent players down to the south. And now Team Casito, they are trying to send this team below them back out of the lobby. Robert gets over to safety using those smokes for cover. But look at this. It's Team Mira that are now getting involved. Angel will go down. As Satum, after landing the shots from on high, will be looking to support and defend against OMG.
And it's almost the exact thing I spoke about, right? We'll look at Tatsumi as he peeks through to Saitan. Another couple of shots with that MP5K. And he's really cautious on pushing the way he goes through. His head will be revealed once more. And Giancarlo peeks from the other side. But as I was just saying at Chunks, you looked at... Oh my god, there's a crash. We'll pick up that point later. No, OMG, they have completely retreated. But it's like I said, the reason why Mula Systematica are still alive is because it took Team KZito too long, and it invited a third party from the likes of Team Mira. That's why you take that spot. You want other teams to help you. That platform wasn't there just yet, but too much noise, too much time elapsed, and all of a sudden, Mula Systematica gets safe. And even more importantly, Chunks, Mula Systematica, they're getting out of that dip.
This is going to be a messy circle now, as it's gone hard over to these 55 Esports try and make the send, but it's going to be Mixstall who manages to land the opening knock. Karak with a seat swap will take down Varus, but there's still going to be a player inside the vehicle. Not for long. RNZ hops out. Mixstall finds the kill. hops inside of the US to try and get himself the reload, but it doesn't work out. Zelo takes down Nanu from AKA as he will be traded out by Coyote, and it leaves only DZ left up to try and play inside of the dips, but there isn't a lot to work with. I think he's just going to throw a nade for a bit of a Hail Mary, try and finish off the job that his teammates have started. Will it connect? It seems close, but it's just not enough to get the kill, and that's going to be the end of DZ, and Zolos down in 15th position for our final game of the evening.
Yeah, Jolo's down. 55 have sustained a knock as well as they play in that dip just to the west of the trenches itself. 4 happy mans are inside a Hall of Fame. You don't get yourself in the Hall of Fame for winning a PPT event, but I'm sure there's some players who will be taking part in the Masters and PAS this weekend who will have their eyes on the prize and hope to add their images to that sacred wall before the end of the season. I know that we have some viewers from the OS region. I think they call it, is it Buntings? They like to call that one.
Bunnings, please.
Bunnings, yes. But to me, it's Hall of Fame. And
this is Bunnings, and I will die on that hill. I have been yelled at by too many OCE players. This is Bunnings, and that compound that Mirror have, that's the Hanging Gardens.
Yeah, but you just know that one day Tig went Bunnings, and the rest of the Falcons are like, huh? Where? What are you talking about? I call that X Games, that position up there, or Garden, or Heaven. You know, it just depends on the vibe of the day. I have heard it called Hanging Gardens too, so it's all good.
It's the Hanging Gardens. That's the Korean comm, and, you know, that means if you use that comm, you're a better player, right? Sakamura, he's looking over towards those Juventus players as... Ooh, it actually looks like Systematica trying to push into the mansion area. That BZ nade could cause real problems for it, though. Alongside the Molotov, they've only got one player left up. Kevin's going to try and find himself a frag grenade through the window, but not able to. So many BZs, but somehow Zig has managed to dodge them all, and he's actually going to be able to get the revive onto his teammate.
Yeah, the blue zone's not going to spread just far enough, but Team Rezav will look to keep Mula Systematica out. They're going to get at least one of the reses off, maybe even a second, and that'll keep them strong. Dots on the other side are going to catch it out. Zyko with the Vector iron sights will find that knock inside of Mansion. 3 teams sharing out. There are 3 mansions in this position, but so I'd let you know, you're never going to be able to sleep safely when you've got neighbors inside this position. Robert is on his way in here as well, because why the hell not? Valiant's going to shut down one with the MP5. And now Barry will toss a smoke out the window. Please, BZ will do a lot of damage onto Angel and Axmeyer, and that might just help out Barry just a little bit. He jumps up onto the balcony, but Pana from Rezav, he's there. The blue zone, it's a double, it's a triple, baby. Everybody is burning, everybody falls.
Oh, baby, a triple.
What a BZ that was. Look at the kill feed. There wasn't enough space on the screen to get all the names on it.
That was amazing right there, to be able to throw down that many BZs and just basically microwave everybody inside of the building. But there is something that we are forgetting, and that's the fact that there is a BRDM in play. I think it was Loki that had it right there, and that could provide a lot of extra safety based on his current position. OMG will fall down in 12th position as Giancarlo tries to make a crash over in towards DTMF, but it is not going to be enough. They decide to back away, and DTMF keep hold of their compound.
Yeah, DTMF rocking on to Alamo as things stand and trying to hold it for everything it is worth as 4 happy men's. Well, they're just kind of out in a limb. Here's the move from Mula Systematica. They saw the kill feed light up. They got all 3 players back in the game. And now they can move closer and closer to Rezav, who have given up this northern building inside this. But they've moved over more so towards the garage compound, with Nobski a little further away. 55 still doing some damage from inside their dip, but Chunks the circle, it's shifted towards Mansion. So one thing I will say, right, it's phase 6 or so that the recall system ends. I'm just saying, if these teams somehow manage to deal with each other, there is a possibility of a res.
Yeah, I think that what most likely is going to happen is neither team actually does anything right now. I think they all just keep their head down, try and stay alive, and wait it out. This is a bit surprising, this circle. I think what the majority of people would have expected, at least what I've seen in a lot of games, is when you get kind of a previous circle, you may be expected to pull down to the south, over towards PD, over towards AKA, over towards those trenches. It's very rare that you see one actually pull up towards Mansion now. So if you're a team like Razav, you're kind of annoyed at yourself that you're so split up, because if you had 2 players in Nubsky's position, you'd be in a really good spot to try and hold out any rotations that are coming in from the south.
Chunks, what we're playing now is aim trainer, right? It's just heads are going to pop out, you're going to try to shoot them, they're going to dip back into cover, but you don't expect any knocks. DTMF have left the Alamo, and, well, maybe the Graveyard is their next destination. PD looking their way. Faraz is still alive.
Oh,
okay.
C4.
Okay, why not put a C4 on it? Maybe you could just get some luck as Kevson will get out of there and get on the move. There's a smoke wall being laid. I love this team play. Tony gets a knock a little bit further south. I spoke about DTMF being in trouble. That's exactly what happened. Kevs is sharing a building with Zyko, though. And hear me out, that nade could be money. And it is. First one's thrown, second one's good. This ain't good as DTMF are getting torn asunder by everybody that looks their way, and they will fall. But yeah, Chunks, back to that fight inside Mansion. I feel like the Vector wins if Zyko fires first.
Oh, at close range, undoubtedly the fire rate is just so high at that kind of range. It's basically unbeatable. Fakes in. He managed to get a really nice DMR shot over onto one of those potentially dangerous players as the grenades were popping. I think that Mira may be concerned that there could still be a player inside of those smokes. Maybe one of the PD players they think has made a move, so it looks like they're going to maybe set up one of the vehicles behind that cover to provide a little bit of extra safety. Gabri spots out 55, trying to land a couple of shots, but he can't convert it over to a knock. Now it's an aim battle against the VSS, and we've seen how those go.
An SAS here down on the south side of the circle, a South American showdown, and it's only going further south as 55 now hold the south side, but look at their dip. It is a great spot. Mira turned their attention to PD. They've understood the assignment. They've looked at PD and went, our path into the circle requires a knock. They find that knock on the Glock, and here we go. Fabrizio Romano style for those of you who follow a little bit of football. But Mira closed the gap. They get in throwable distance. They get another knock onto Gabri. And PD, they need to hold strong as these pugs, these powerful pugs of war, are getting the work on. And look at that for a molly, forcing them further back.
Just limiting the amount of space that PD have to work with. The zone's going to start moving in 10 seconds. Now remember, Mira, their area of the zone is going to move slightly faster than potentially dangerous is right now, but with the way that they're playing, they're looking like they're going to try and choke out PD. They still need to be careful of DeCarlos over on the east, who they are not aware of because he's just been laying prone. But LFP, he is aware of every head that peeks up as he finds Tony's, gets the knock, and again, that is delaying PD's ability to actually get aggressive and get on the front foot. They are so pinned. Molotovs landing through from Vanna. They are so close, but they're just not enough to connect. That one might just have done the job, but every single bit of util that Team Mirror are able to salvage is being committed onto this fight now because they know that potentially dangerous could be the difference between going out in 8th and winning the game.
Yeah, they're going hard on the aggression onto this fight now. PD back up to a 3. Haven throws the molly in behind the Dorito, but it's not going to land. But look at that, it's a trade either way. PD biting back hard. Fana, the last player alive now, dips back into cover behind the Dacia. Gabri steps out from the side. Good spray from Fana. Drops him low, forces him into cover. Nightavon, though, gets the high ground. Fana does damage again, but Fana will stand tall. What the heck, Mira?
Fana coming out of the 2v1 on top, isolating the fight, peaking when the time was right, but now so susceptible to util usage coming out from 55 Esports. He's found the revive onto LFP, but as RNZ sends it in, he takes down Vanna, finishes off LFP, and that is Team Mirror out in 7th. And look at this from 55 Esports. We said they hadn't had the performance we were looking for. They've already got 8 kills on the board this game. They're showing no signs of slowing down, but it's AKA who pick up the next as they eliminate team at Razav.
Yeah, look, I know he fell, but that was just fantastic. It always is every time he's on our screens. AKA 3 players up. They've got themselves 4 points on the board, looking to maybe double or triple that with a good performance. Well, there's 1 more point for free as Dots will go down. Zyko dies to the blue zone. 4v3v, 3v1. 55, full control of the center of the circle. Oranzira holding the western front. Everybody else on the outside looking in, Chunks, and 55 will be so mad at themselves if they don't get this over the line.
Sending RNZ off to the west, trying to play that anchor position. Really needs to try and find an opening on Systematicas now, because they're the team that's causing threats for the rest of 55. They're unable to push over towards AKA until Systematica have been dealt with. But as of right now, AKA not inside of the zone, so 55 Esports, as much as they want to get aggressive, they're not forcing the move. They are waiting for AKA to come to them, because they know that as soon as AKA expose themselves, not only will it be 55 Esports doing damage, but they're going to get support from Systematica. Instead, AKA, they decide to clown car it, head straight into a rock. That was not what they wanted. Nanu, though, will like what he just got. Took down Sonics, but it's not going to be enough as AKA fall out in third, and now there's only 1 Systematica player left up. RNZ, now is the time to just send it in, get the info, and deny the revive as quickly as possible.
It is all gas, no brakes. Do not let them regroup. Do not let them get back. They've got 2 players on their feet. The problem for 55 is a lack of ammo is telling. A lack of nades is telling. Oranzira cannot afford to waste too much. Stun grenades aplenty. The BDRM is going to be a safe haven for these players as they hop in, hop out, toss in. All those. Right, Chunks?
Are there no panzers left?
I don't know if there's enough ammo. I don't know if they've got enough ammo to deal with these players. Now, Sonics will step on. Sonics, what are you doing? Pipa will find that knock. KX will dip back into cover. There's the vehicle. It's going to explode. Oranzira's got very little ammo left, but Pipa gets it done. 55. Make it 24 points for them. Chunks, after 2 maps, they had 1 point. In the last 2 maps, they have gotten over 25, 26 points, maybe even 30. My maths, I think they got 12 points in one game, 14 the next, but what a performance that's been for 55 over the last 2 maps of the day.
Yeah, they really stepped it up in the final 2 games. Will this rate of improvement continue tomorrow? Do they wipe the entire lobby tomorrow? Who knows? Only time will tell. But honestly, look, 55, really good performance. Obviously, they're a team that's already qualified. They're not worried about necessarily being in the top 4. You can view this as a bit of practice, but ultimately, there is that additional prize pool for making it into the top 4. So if they're able to get that, that'll be helpful. Again, getting that practicing as well is also going to help you when you get over to the next Masters. So I gotta say, they've really stepped it up. Team Mirror as well, we saw them do big things throughout this evening. They haven't been as dominant as they were in the early weeks, but I think to a certain extent that's just other teams starting to catch up on their level. This tends to happen with PUBG, doesn't it? You have one team that is so dominant for a phase, and then they almost take their foot off the gas a little bit. And I'm not saying that Mirror aren't trying hard, but they aren't fighting as hard as we're used to seeing, and that could just be them getting unlucky. But ultimately, they haven't been as aggressive. Other teams have been able to step up, but I know there's still one huge game in them tomorrow that they are going to be able to deliver.
They've still got 11 kills, though. Like, it was still a great game. Like,
I'm talking a 20-plus game. That's what we're used to seeing out of them.
Yeah, but
20 points, 20 kills and a win.
Yeah, look, it's coming tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow. I can feel it. Mula Systematico, aka Dots, all getting 8 points each. But let's look at our leaderboard at the end of day 1. 55 and Mira, 40 points apiece. All that is separating the two is the placement point domination that 55 have had. And when you consider they had 1 point after 2 games, and now they've got 40 after 4, they have been activated. Dots doing it for the North Americans, 39 points for them. And looking at the teams that are on the leaderboard, Chunks, if I'm not wrong, 55 are in the LCQs. So that means going into day 2, that Dots, KZito, Rezav, and Mula Systematica are the teams that will join everybody in those LCQs. But there's still 4 maps that'll determine how much change we will see.
And it also means that there's only, what, 13 points between qualification and 14th place, so a lot of room for movement tomorrow in those final 4 games, and a lot on the line. Obviously, not only that prize pool for the top 4 teams, but also the opportunity to take part in the Masters, which has an even bigger prize pool. But let's take a look over at the summary of our teams, and it is Team Mirror who dominate the kill charts this evening. Dots, though, the 9mm Mad Lads popping off today. Really, really impressive performance from.
Yeah, I love that from the Dots. 27 kills. As I'm a fan of Chain Doe, always have been. Same with Valiant and Batty. So it's good to see the Dots guys putting some work in. Zyko had an incredible bolty shot today too. But I think the main thing to point out is Mira had like a 1 or 0 point game. So they have gotten 40 kills in essence over 3 maps. Pipa leading it out with 10 kills on the day. 3 players for Mira with 8 kills each. So it just goes to show they've been brilliant all the way through. But Chunks, I'm looking, right? You look through that leaderboard, apart from Mira dominating kills and the damage side of things, we've got Shane in damage. We've got Tony in there, Kevzin and Glock. Like, it's nice to see a mix of players putting up some good damage numbers.
I wish someone would put together a chart here where we can compare number of 9mm bullets fired with total damage, because I can't help but suspect that that's got to be part of it, because obviously a 9mm does a little bit less damage. You're firing them off at a much higher rate, but we'll have to see tomorrow whether that 9mm dominance continues, Gibson, because we're now at the halfway point. There's only 4 more games for these teams to be able to qualify.
That is all that's left. Now, one thing to remember, the VSS does get the DMR and Bolty headshot amplifier, so it does do increased damage on heads, which is good to keep an eye on. But that is it for the Players Cup on the night. 4 maps down, 4 to go tomorrow, same time, same place. Make sure to tune in, folks, because it will be the last time this year you will see Chunks and I casting together on a broadcast. It is the final PUBG Players Cup of the year. We are going to give it the send-off it deserves. We hope to see you all there. Till then, though, he's been Chunks, I've been Gibson. You guys at home have been great. I'll see you all tomorrow.